Phone. There we go. Okay. I should be coming through. And the music should also be coming through for you guys. Alrighty. Been a hot second, so I'd have to just making sure that everything is going according to plan here, and I think it is. The only thing that I'm sort of weirded out is
Hello there.
oh, there we go, and that's playing too. So perfect. It's the bits alert one. There we go. Alright. I'm gonna eat a sandwich really quickly. Oh, Katie! Welcome. Thank you for sticking around. Slightly... Took me a little bit longer than I wanted to get everything done, but most of it was getting this slideshow up. So, I hope you enjoy the art, and it looks nice. Anyways, we're gonna be playing the Hayseed Knight today, which... someone that I know and I'm really impressed with made this whole ass game. Almost by themselves. Not entirely by themselves, but they did a huge chunk of it. So, I'm excited to get into it. Looks like we got people coming in. Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are doing awesome. And we will just be playing this game. And I think this game is actually fully voiced, so there's not any reason for me to do any voices myself. Also, I've got that caption thing in the top right, so you guys can let me know if you're having any trouble with that. For now, I think we'll just get into it. Oh, I missed all of what you've been saying. I've just been doing some introductions. Also, oops, I forgot that I forgot that I have the filter on. I think I'll take that off, unless you guys really like that. I can do either or. But I feel like I should probably take the color key off. Yeah, there we go. Alright. Can't read the text this way? Yeah, okay. It was fun for Super Mystery Dungeon, but anyways, this version includes up to Chapter 3, updated designs, and several new scenes. We're going to be going through the first 2 chapters of this visual novel, and then seeing what we got from there. Alright, we'll be doing Chapter 3 on Friday.
What's with this place? It's ancient. Are you sure we're allowed to be here?
You're allowed to be anywhere as long as no one finds you. Okay, we've got an unspoken narrator. Sneaking through the forgotten cracks in a wall is not as easy as it once was, but I still managed to push my hat and my staff in somehow without wrecking the wall any further. Today's a mess, and the last thing I'd want is the whole city knowing that I'm back on my nonsense. Namely, helping fawns trespass into abandoned temples in pursuit of fixing the written lies that pass as history these days. I'm too old for this rubbish. I catch a glimpse of Lynn's expression as I push my scarf over my face again. My newest headache looks entirely unconvinced by my logic. Look, we're already here, and you're gonna need all the help you can get, kid. I don't have time to explain every single little thing to you. If said kid still has any qualms left about following me here, she has the rare decency not to voice them. I mean, this whole ordeal is her fault, in a very roundabout sort of way. Still her fault nonetheless. It's anyone's but mine, at least. I didn't come all the way back to the city to do charity for his descendants. I just wanted to find that dumbass's grave and clean up a little, or leave some incense or something. Not this. I wasn't looking to hear legends about any so-called Knight of the Upper Field. I know the books in this library won't say a word about him, but I had to come back to this place anyways. The unlikely possibility of finding a trace of his existence among the broken tablets and burnt codices was far too compelling to ignore. Here I am, still following in his footsteps, like the few unlucky scripts that time and thieves spared, frozen in their shelves as they await the return of someone who will understand them. We have a lot in common, this library and I. This kid's eyes open a fraction wider, and I manage to nearly avoid the incoming onslaught of questions. Here, ink, paper. You can write, right?
Of course! You're talking to the fastest.
Shut it, Askadaz.
Sheesh, you're really adding some flavor to my name, huh? Where did all that salt come from? Or could that be the sweetness of an old flame?
How old is this kid?
Such a bitter aftertaste?
Ew. No, don't do that. It makes you sound like your mother. I mean, her mother. Or her great-great-grandmother? Yeah! I can't believe the story's been derailed this much. How long have I been gone?
I can't even start to guess if you won't tell me how old you are.
I'm entirely too old to care about something as dumb as numbers.
Well, gee, I'm starting to see why you wanted me here. Do you have a name, or are you too cool for letters too?
My name would only doom this project. You will be me and I will be nothing more than the space between words.
What a droll way to say you want me getting lynched for this.
I can still keep the story to myself and tell you to get lost, kid.
But you won't, because after hearing my name, you realize I'm the chosen gazelle that legend of old prophesied would tell the true story of the night, right?
Cute kid.
I could use a little encouragement here, not gonna lie.
Oh. Listen, Lynn, I don't believe in chosen names, and I certainly don't know what the truth is. I doubt Ader himself ever knew. Hey, that's a character that I know about. So, as far as I know, there's 3 main characters, Ader, Sep, and Ina. But I am gonna tell you the story I know. I will tell it once, and probably tell it wrong, since I can barely remember it anymore. But even so, anything I say will be 1,000 times more accurate than any of the odes this witless bunch of fopdoodles have been singing through the ages. This may be Ader's punishment for lying his way into history, but I still can't let the name of a friend be smeared like that. So what I mean to say is I will skewer you if you interrupt me and make me forget something.
Fair.
She finally shuts up for a moment, though I know the silence won't last. Right. Good. I guess I should put my own thoughts in order before we begin. His story started back when he left his village to... No, that would be too long. His story starts when he became a knight, and... No, that defeats the purpose. I guess his story... Well, I guess his story starts with me. I could allow myself that much merit, right?
Who are you again?
I'm the one who tells the story. You write. Okay. All right. Here we go. Also, how's the sound balance? Is the music too loud or too quiet? Oh, also this picture that's staying up for fairly long is the one that Maxi Molina, again, the creator of this game, drew for me before I streamed this. So I set that one to stay up for a little while. Chapter 1. The Fickle Queen, or what better way to start a story than when things are about to go south?
Adder. Hey, lad. Adder.
Oh,
Hey, lad. Do we have to go through this every single fuck? No! Oh boy. Here we go.
A beast!
oh, he's got an accent.
I saw a beast!
He's got that bumpkin accent.
Way to call me an eyesore.
I'm telling you, I saw a beast.
Right. Look, I'm not drunk enough for this, so good.
This ain't no time to sleep. The beast may be gone, but the Macadar is still out there.
All right, we've got some sort of conflict here.
Forest out there has come to find me.
Ader is very scared.
Stop screaming like an idiot and use your brain for a second.
I knew they'd get to the city one day. We gotta
Okay, that's
take
a lot of
them away.
there's a lot of vibrating.
There are no damn trees around you, dimwit!
A long shush followed right after. Or that's what we'll go with, since the words their dear neighbors used were too colorful to be reproduced.
Oh, then what did you holler for, Mr. Bard? The sun ain't up yet. If you don't quit your whining, we're gonna get a beating.
Says you, the buck who hath been delighting mine ears with his pitiful wailing.
Say what?
You've been talking in your sleep again.
Okay. We've got a choice. I don't know how the choices will affect anything, but, well, let's do with, let's do sorry. I'd be like, sorry. You know, can't help it.
Well, slap my head and call me silly. I'm so sorry, Mr. Bard. I forgot we were an heirloom for a moment there. But no more. I'm gonna make sure to keep my dreams dead silent from now on.
That's what you said last time. Ah.
Love that expression. That's a good expression on Geoff there.
Can't a deer have a hangover in peace for once?
Nope.
You know that I'd move away if I could, but
Don't sweat it, kid. Once you're faring better, you'll take us both out of our misery.
wait. Fair? Fair? Oh, 3.
3.
Don't.
The fair!
Oh, there's a
I
fair.
swear by Tet, kid, if you keep screaming, I'm going to kill you.
Not if they get to me first!
So Ader's heavy hooves stomped the ground with the force of a stampede as he sprinted away, making Geoff regret every decision that led to him suffering this torment.
Glad we sorted that out.
Wide awake now and running as fast as his clumsy hoofs would let him, Ader set off to the bazaar. A whole year had come and gone since he'd first set foot on the streets of the Slander District, the most infamous slums of the capital. A place so heinous that walking there alone at night was considered a suicide attempt. A place where you were in your right to keep a house if you could outlast its previous owner. Where he'd once felt like a poor fawn fearing for his life, now he felt like a poor deer fearing for his life. But at least he actually knew his way around after such a long time avoiding brigands. He had no time to spare worrying about trivial matters such as being robbed or stabbed, for he knew fully well that he was to meet his destiny.
The patron's gonna skin me alive!
A destiny which most likely didn't really include being flayed by his dearest employer. Though he can't rule out the possibility of his direct superior whacking him in the head for oversleeping on such an important date.
What if she hates me now? Then the patron won't have no problem kicking me out. He'll kick me out and keep my skin as a payment. Nah, that's dumb. But he'll kill me anyway. Oh, crap.
So immersed was he in these fatalistic thoughts invading his head that his brain, which was by all accounts mostly made up of sawdust, didn't pay any mind to the path his hooves were following. And so, as is to be expected from someone not heeding the wise advice, look where you're going, he soon met the first obstacle in his way to the plaza. A wall. God damn it, Ader.
Oh dear.
In any other place, that soft chuckle would have meant that Ader wouldn't have the benefit of living with his failures alone. In the slums, it could mean that he wouldn't have the benefit of living at all.
That was almost impressive. I truly thought that you were going to run straight through that wall for a moment.
The voice got closer by the second, followed by a strangely harmonic tinkling. A melody that danced in his ears and paralyzed his mind, rendering him frozen in the spot at the thought of an incoming murderous lady. Ader shut his one remaining eye and held his breath deeply, knowing that it would be the last. He'd get up. Not dead yet. Oh, crap. I right-clicked. Still not dead. How come he was still alive? That's just rude. Between his blurry sight and the obfuscating darkness, Ader could barely tell apart the silhouette standing right in front of him. He should have run, and screamed and begged for his life, but instead, he hesitated long enough for a few stray sun rays to wander among the rundown houses, finally casting light upon his foe.
Whoa.
For your information, everyone already thinks that Rose are thick-skulled. We don't need another martyr for the cause.
Just as haughty. She was pretty cute. Ader's absolute lack of reaction made her mocking smile falter. To be fair, he had, indeed, left a sizable hole in the wall he just crashed against. But that was hardly the cause for a sudden drop in mental speed.
Are you okay?
Ader nodded, though he hadn't really heard the question. Sensing this, the mysterious lass extended a soft hand towards him in an amiable gesture. I don't trust Ader to play it cool. We're gonna take her hand.
What are those?
I know they're short. Please don't stare.
What kind of nonsense is that? I've never seen hands like those before.
My hands? You like my hands?
Were you born with them? How much weight can you lift? Can you use tools at all? Or wear a shirt? What's wrong with your head? Is that a hood or a scarf? I love the pattern, by the way.
Okay, so she's just a chatterbox.
So,
I'm sorry, ma'am. What was the question?
you, what are you supposed to be?
Oh! Well, I'm just your run-of-the-mill prairie buck, man. Just, you know, my mom gave me shovels for hands and a gourd for a neck. They're better for working the fields.
Hold on, I'm gonna take a look at the menu really quickly, and I'm gonna change the... I'm gonna turn the voice volume up.
Oh, come on. I want the actual story.
You want the board bits? Okay. See, I used to be all big and strong. But then I come to the city, and what do you know? Food ain't so easy to come by. I was so hungry that I'd even eat the rocks in the street.
Come on, Ader. Really?
And I go to bed hungry one night, and another, and I keep on starving till I end up 2 meals short of turning into a walking pile of bones. Except for my hands. They just won't get. And they're for real heavy, let me tell you. So, that's the gist of it. You want to hear about my neck, too? Or my name, at least?
The girl's eyes narrowed as she stared at Ader. He fixed his gaze on his hands, considering the strange path the conversation had taken.
So, what you are saying is that you used to be plump?
Plump? Like a fruit? Well, I used to eat a bunch of fruit before I came down here last year, yeah.
Last year? Wait, how many eyes did you have then?
How many? 5, I think, but I lost the other 4. Just the one, ma'am.
I knew it. You've changed a lot, but it's you. You're that loudmouthed one-eyed chub.
Wow, rude.
Say what?
It's me. Don't tell me you've forgotten me.
Joff had warned Ader multiple times about the dangers of the "it's me" scams, but he was pretty tempted to fall into this one. Oh, okay. This is apparently a classic scam.
Ma'am! I don't know what you're selling, but I ain't gonna buy it.
Come on. Don't you remember that night on the bridge under Hirab's statue? With the guards laughing at you? You didn't hit your head that hard, did you?
I bet those guards had one haystack of a night laughing at some poor buck. I'm pretty darn sure that wasn't me. I'd remember it. Trust me.
It was a pretty long time ago, but... Wait, I know.
She bit her lip just long enough to make Ader lose his need to understand the situation anymore. Ah, nice. Roll the 20 in seduction.
Come closer.
Ooh, me? Almost asked the deer, yet there was no one else hiding in the mists of dawn.
I said come closer.
All right then, here I come.
That's it? Come on, don't make me walk over there. Boop.
Oh, he got booped.
That's close enough.
She slipped right under Ader's arm, uninvited, but not unwelcomed.
Now, if you could get on your knees, You know what? Maybe you should see a doctor after all.
Alright.
Joseph! There you are!
Ugh, give me a break.
In less than a blink, In less than a blink, her smile was back on her face as she turned to face the voice in the distance. It was some other doe in similarly flashy clothing, hurriedly stomping her way towards Joseph, apparently.
You called?
We've been looking everywhere for you!
And so you found me. Congratulations. Now, if you don't mind...
Miss Rochelle's had us searching for hours! She wants you back immediately!
Well, I'm kind of busy, so...
She is very,
would you be so kind to go
we'll say
tell her
confident.
to find someone else to bother while I catch up with my friend here?
The fair's about to start! Head back already or you'll get us all in trouble!
The red-haired girl stood completely still. She held her breath for an instant.
I'm sorry. Was that an order?
What? Miss Rochelle said...
Say, do you know what happened to the last wench who had the gall to order me around?
Joseph's smile was still plastered on her face, but her eyes had narrowed down to a squint, sharpening her long eyelashes even further.
I don't...
Care to find out?
The doe looking for her stammered, color drained from her mien. After a few tense seconds, a pleased smile spread across Joseph's face.
Come now, honey. Don't make that face. I'm just joking here. I've got too much going on as it is to begin picking fights with my sisters. Don't you think?
Right.
Then that's settled. Let's go.
Joseph whipped her braid as she turned around sharply, making the choir of bells that hung from her hips announce her leave. Ader had barely just a second to register what had happened. He could swear something had moved in a corner, but he couldn't care less. The finest lass he'd laid eyes upon in his whole life was about to disappear, and she seemed to have forgotten all about him. Facing the prospect of never seeing her again, he tried at the very least to catch up to introduce himself formally.
Wait,
That's a powerful pose right there.
Yes?
Quick volume adjustment on my mic. Oop. There we go. Actually, I don't think I adjusted it at all, but oh well. But, as Ader was about to speak, he had the same feeling of missing something. And so, as his gaze drifted following her back once more, he noticed something else moving behind her derriere. Something long, like a whip, ending on a red tuft of fur. Something that most definitely didn't look like a cervine tail. Confused, his eyes quickly traveled from the zone where her back lost its name to the top of her head. Praying, wishing, desperately hoping that he wouldn't find what he found sprouting from the top of her red head. Horns. Coiled black barhen horns, longer than his own rack. Ader had to hold back a yelp. He'd been so distracted by the rest of her features that... No way! I wasn't looking at her! Ader yelled internally. Beads of sweat began falling from his temples as his face became even more flustered. There's no way! But as if meaning to aggravate his inner turmoil, Joseph smiled one last time with a mischievous glint in her eyes.
Don't worry. I'll see you around. Handsome.
Ader was so many things. He was goofy, he was loud, he had a smile that could light up a whole town. He was gigantic, and yet, if there was a thing that he'd never call himself, it was no doubt handsome. After all, a buck's worth may as well be as large as his horns are, and his were, well, tiny, almost childlike. So that offhanded compliment, that mere insinuation that someone found him actually good-looking made his heart flutter. And by flutter, I mean it may as well have burst out of his chest right then. So for just 1 second, he forgot that the lady in front of him was horned. For a moment, he forgot all the things he'd heard about gazelles. His face turned red, his jaw came loose, but had he been able to articulate, he'd have found he'd completely forgotten the ability to talk. He still knew how to do one thing, though. Run. And so Ada runs away crying. This time, his shame was stronger than the wall.
Wait, what? Stop right there. What was that last bit?
The bit about the wall or the Oh, I see. Ruminants haven't always been so successful at living together as they are now. Wars, gods, horn shape, all the excuses to be different used to make a lot more sense to mortals back then.
No, I know that, but there's no way the knight would have thought something so awful.
Ader was a young, insecure stag in a time when every roe felt the need to deny having a single drop of Barhan blood in their veins. Why would he think any different?
Why wouldn't he? That's the point, isn't it? That he was different from the rest. How could he believe any of that crap?
How should I know? I never had anything against gazelles.
Sounds like you weren't a whole lot bothered by those who did, though.
You're right. I wasn't. I just thought that there always had to be someone to punch down on, and I spent all my energy making sure that that would never be me. That was the world as I saw it, and I never hoped it could be any different. Never wanted it to change. Ader, though, I think he never meant to do that to anyone. I think he just hadn't realized that there was more to the world than the fears he had been raised with. He had to butt heads with more than one type of wall in his life. I could be wrong, of course. His understanding could yet have been yet another pretense, and he may have very well lied about wanting to fight with the rest of us until his very last breath. No. I'm sure he did grow to be a wise and kind man, Lynn. Much wiser and kinder than I ever was, at least. Neither of us would be here making excuses for that dumbass otherwise.
Well, I don't care about you, but he'd better rise up soon. I have high-quality standards for my ancestors.
I'm glad you do, kid. Now, where were we? The sun was already up in the sky by the time Ader managed to remember that he was supposed to go to the bazaar.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to arrive so late. Please don't kill me.
But lo and behold, there was no one around.
Ha! What do you know? First again. I'm gonna have to ask for a raise at this rate. Oh, hold up. Now ain't the time for that. Andy could get here at any...
I assume that is Ina.
Boss! Ha! Gotcha. You're gonna end up giving someone a heart attack if you don't quit sneaking up on people like that, you know.
Yo! Ina looks badass.
Right. Don't you think for a second I forgot I was supposed to prepare the stall. No, ma'am. But, you know, days are getting longer, and it's harder to sleep at night, and the streets are real crowded, and...
Ina's silent glare told him that she didn't believe a single word, but she didn't care enough to pry either.
Hey now! Quit giving me that look, missy! You got here late, too.
She pointed at her hair. Drops of silvery green water were dancing on her tips, painting the ground beneath them.
And how is it my fault that you were busy dyeing your hair?
Leaving him with that perfectly valid question unanswered, she walked back to pick up a big bag she left a few steps away. The classic big bag excuse. She lifted it up with a single hand and then headed towards the stall, closely followed by Ader. It was about time they began working. A sudden thought popped up in Ader's mind as he helped her set up the carpet,
So, how come the patron ain't here? It's just gonna be the two of us today?
Ina simply shrugged.
You won't tell your pa I got here late, right, boss?
She punched his arm with such strength that she almost made him fall sideways.
Ow! What did I... Oh, tail. Sorry, boss.
I don't know for sure, but I'm gathering that Ina is mute. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. But I don't, I guess we'll find out. This little reminder that that was a sensitive issue effectively killed the conversation. People from all over Heirloom began congregating in the bazaar, turning the walled plaza into a sea of spice, trinkets, and deer. The currents of that sea were still difficult to understand for Ader, who often found himself pushed to the ground in the busiest hours. Today would be especially lively. It was the beginning of the Dasun season, and so the festive Akane had to make sure to bid a proper farewell to the rain clouds, so they'd be back again by the end of it. A pleasant change from Ader's usual day-to-day, working in Ina's forge under the continuous risk of suffering heat stroke or a third-degree burn. Or that's what he thought at first.
Welcome, welcome! We got the best prices in town! Come on and see what goods we offer!
There was no reaction whatsoever to his incessant yelling, other than Ina snickering at him for trying so hard, that is.
Sure must be fun watching me break my back so your dad won't yell at us.
Wait, I think I might have, let's go back. With a long sigh, Ina sat up and cast a tired glance over the carpet. She reached out and grabbed a small, shiny dagger. After checking its sharpness against her gloves, she began stabbing the air as possible customers approached the stall, attempting to showcase its intended use. Ader quickly put his hands over her shoulders, discreetly bringing her arms down. I love like the gremlin fangs she's got.
You know what? Nah, take that back. There ain't no deer in the world that works harder than Ada of the test. There just ain't. A hard worker like you deserves a good rest every once in a while, so just let me take care of this, boss.
He did his best attempt at a natural smile. Ina, who couldn't care less about any of this, simply shrugged and sat back, still wielding the knife. What a great expression from Ina. She let her hand fall on one of the stones that paved the bazaar, and effortlessly tore it from the ground, decided that it would serve better as a sharpening tool.
You do you.
It was best to leave the issue alone. Ader had figured out quite some time ago that Ina was a creature of habit, and her habits included steadfastly refusing to put any effort into anything she didn't care about. But it never really bothered him at all. There was something fascinating about watching her get completely absorbed by whatever task she had chosen to focus on, really. Ader never quite had that level of dedication to his craft, if he even had one. She could hammer tirelessly at a single hunk of metal for hours at a time if the piece required so, all while judging Ader's every move with the same intensity. She was just as capable sitting in the corner and glaring away the hours while she sank deep into her own imagination. That's why he immediately knew something was off when she turned her face away from the dull knife of her own accord.
Huh? What's wrong, boss? Wait, is that... Oh, no. Don't tell me he's coming this way!
Ina wasn't going to tell him either way, but coming this way he was. He, being Ader's worst one-sided nightmare. The Amoltaken of Heirloom Souk, Taled the Treasurer, followed by his pale retinue. Ooh, these guys look cool. Ader didn't even have time to yelp before the merchant among merchants politely announced his presence with an ancient greeting.
Tsakirmat, Miss Tess. I'm aware of how hectic the stall must be today, so I won't keep you long. I simply realized what a rare occasion it is to see you out in a crowd, so I thought I would take a moment to come and pay my respects to you. I hope you'll find some solace seeing a familiar face among the hustle and bustle.
Ina's eyes turned sharply away from Taled, closely accompanied by the tip of her knife. The stag's head followed the motion, only to find an eerily immobile set of deer waiting by his side.
I understand the apprehension you feel towards my company, but I'm afraid these are the only escorts I can ever trust with my back anymore. It's a dangerous world out there for people like me.
Oh, those escorts must be badass.
Speaking of which,
Maybe also really fucked up.
where's your father? Has he considered my latest proposal? Or will I have to send any more of my people his way?
Ader didn't miss the way Ina's fingers clenched around the dagger she was sharpening. Come up with an excuse or distract him. Well, coming up with an excuse probably doesn't seem like it's gonna be up Ader's skill set. Being a distraction, putting himself in harm's way, that sounds more like something he's capable of.
Holy horns! Check out that buck's grapevine, boss! It's gotta be the biggest tree I've seen in my life from root to branchlets. Darn! That shrub's worth a fortune, I'm telling you. And trust me, I'm Chanchurian born and raised. I know a thing or two about giant trees.
So is that Tanzurian? I hope so. Ina didn't bat an eye at the interruption, while Taylor didn't even seem to hear him. Their bizarre staring contest remained strictly a two-person business. Ader was never one to give up so easily, however. Okay.
Yep, sure'd be nice if we could have a plant like that dragging our stuff around. Oh, it's a real shame the patron don't plan to bother showing up today. We could have tried to convince him together. Whoever buys that tree is going to show the world he's a deer with class. Ain't that right, ain't it?
Ader needn't do anything more remarkable than put a hand on Ina's shoulder to make Talid shoot a look in his direction at last. It was but a brief glance. A glance best reserved for a slug crawling up your leg. A glance so scalding that it could make weeds wilt and crumble to dust within seconds. The kind of glance that would normally precede the untimely death of an elongated yellow stag. As Ader's luck would have it, however, recognition set in on the merchant's gaze at just the right moment. An unsettling half-smile formed in his face instead.
Ah, yes. I remember you now. Geoff's little paramour. The oversized one-eyed fawn that wanted to be a knight. One Durandun for a full set of armor was what you requested, if I'm not mistaken.
Nope. Yep. Sir, I'd never dare say you're mistaken, but I doubly not dare say so when it comes to numbers. Imagine it. Poor farm boy could barely count trying to tell the Talid how money works. Darn, just thinking about it cracks me up. No, sir, I can't. I just can't believe for one moment the most famous loner in all of Heirloom would be so kind to remember a dumb buck's dumb dreams, much less his ugly friggin' mug.
Of course. I never forget a face, no matter how weathered or insignificant. That'd be remiss of me.
Hey there, comeback. Welcome, welcome. Yep, we are just playing some Hayseed Knight. So far, we've made 2 decisions. I think they've gone great. Talid nodded to himself thoughtfully, giving Ader a chance to discreetly crawl behind Ina. Despite the yellow stag's desperate inner pleas, Talid's eyes soon shifted towards him again.
Forgive my curiosity. I just can't help but wonder. How can a country boy with ambitions as great as yours go on living, day after day, knowing he can't aspire to more than his deplorable life? Geoff can barely stay sober enough to feed himself, never mind someone twice his size. It must be exhausting, staying alive.
Yep, some things don't change.
Oh, no, not at all. We manage. Sorta.
Talid's soft features drew closer to Ader, but he barely even noticed. His only eye remained glued to Talid's bodyguards, the white deer.
It's not too late to consider the offer I made you back then. Let me put those deformed hands of yours to better use. I could give you the armor and the money to pay for it now, if you come work for me in the sewers. It won't be much worse than whatever the blind witch has you doing.
That's mighty kind of you, Mr. Talid, but it's poor manners to consider job offers in front of your own boss.
I think Ina is shooting him the look that's like, I will murder you if you say yes.
You make a fair point. Perhaps once I've torn that red scab off our guild's back then.
Also, I have no idea. Most of what they're saying is based on context that we don't have yet. So, if you're wondering what's going on, so am I.
Aina.
We've just started. Anyways. Taylid finished his farewell with a bow, and thus left the moneylender at last. The deer just kind of scoot on out. Followed by the delayed rhythm of a calcareous march. Calcareous? Is that it? A calcareous march. Someone tell me what that word means. I'm assuming it means something to do with deer, but... Calcareous. Calcareous? Calcareous. Sorry. Ader's body had somehow contorted into being nearly indistinguishable from Ina's at this point. Hold on. I want to... There we go. Yep, okay. I wanted to see how he had ducked behind Ina. Adjective containing calcium carbonate. Chalky. Ah, chalky, as in pale. I see. Of a calcareous march. He needed a few more seconds to thaw out of that position.
Divine beeswax, I'm crawling out of my skin here. Who the hell you laughing at now, huh? That weirdo ain't no joke, you hear me? Last time I talked to him, it only took me shoving my hoof in my mouth half a second to swish, get a blade on my neck. And all I could see out of this eye was the creepy face of one of those golem
Ina's ears perked up, though her gaze remained firmly locked on the blade.
No, yeah, of course you'd find it funny, Mistress Miss Tess. Paying my respect sure is a fancy way of saying he got the hots for you.
Ader barely avoided getting his liver punctured by an extremely flustered Ina. Punching sounds. The hours passed by slowly and painfully, for they were completely ignored by any passerby. Well, actually, avoided rather than ignored. It was no surprise. The merchant, Ader's patron, and his mute daughter were two of the most despised people in the city. Oh. In spite of the incredible variety of antiquities and smithery that the merchant had for sale, no one ever bought a single thing. And there were plenty of reasons for that. Even Ader had some serious doubts about working for an old Barhan man, whose fur was redder than blood, and an albino smith that insisted on dyeing her hair green. The fact that they worked independently from Heirlooms Traders Guild probably had something to do with it, too. In any case, it was well after noon, and they hadn't done anything but sit around the whole day. Ader pressed his lips together and began drumming his fingers against the floor. So I guess this is where we go from peak to valley, right? You can't have the whole story be super tense. But I liked that introduction of tension with that encounter. He looked askance at Ina, hoping his subtle call for attention had stirred her curiosity. But there was no answer. He'd have to be the one to actually break the silence, as usual.
So, hey, Aina. I bet you're still wondering just what in the world can make a hard-working buck like this one get here so late this morning.
He's doing an ooh face. Look at that. Hold on. Camera, enhance, zoom. Ah, well, okay, that didn't zoom it in very much. Anyways, he's doing an ooh face. Ina stopped hitting the rock with the blade. She barely moved her eyes towards Ader.
Well, buckle up, because there's a whole story there. This got to stay between you and I. But, this morning...
I saw a beast. I ran through a wall. I saw a gazelle. Well, You guys have anything here? I figure talking about Sep would be the best way to advance the plot, but maybe Ina has some sort of reaction to running through a wall or seeing a beast. Maybe if you say I ran through a wall, she'll snicker. She'll be like... I'll say I ran through a wall.
I ran through a wall. Good thing I have a thick skull, right?
Ader's attempt at starting some sort of one-way conversation fell short. Yet another awkward silence ensued. He feared in those long seconds of quietness that his words hadn't been heard, or worse yet, that he was about to be ignored for eternity. No, that couldn't be. He'd surely worried her too much.
Of course she'd be concerned. What kind of idiot runs straight into a wall and then brags about it?
I shouldn't have told her that, he lamented, thinking of ways to excuse himself for such a dumb thing. Ina's just like, dude, what?
Ow! What's that for? What? You get mad when I worry about you, and you get mad when you worry about me? That ain't fair, ma'am. I'm gonna get real mad at you next time you punch a wall. Real mad. Please don't punch any more walls. Someone's gotta fix them holes for you.
The best way to define Ina's smile at that precise moment would be terrifyingly mean. While her bad temper was known and feared among the other merchants, it was unusual for her to be so acidic, especially towards Ader. Oh. Our dear boy couldn't help but notice this change, and he wasn't going to keep it to himself, of course.
You're acting real ugly, boss.
The smile on her face vanished, replaced instead by a grimace. In response to this affirmation, Ina merely shifted her gaze back to the blade and resumed her task, pretending she hadn't heard him. Aww. But if Ader was known for one thing, it was his incessant need to stick his nose in everyone's business. Let's ask her if she's scared. That's gonna get a reaction.
You scared or something, boss?
A wrinkle formed over her nose as she focused on keeping calm. Ader quickly understood what was irking her.
Now. I ain't dumb enough just yet to go asking you to explain. Just promise me that you're gonna let me know if it's too much for you, okay? One nod, ma'am.
She looked up, pointing at different parts of the crowd with her snout. And then she shrugged, trying to hide under the shade of their stall.
Well, of course it's crowded. It's a friggin' fair. Just what in the name of hats was the patron thinking, leaving you all alone in the stall?
Ina only seemed to become more conflicted as he said this.
Sorry, I didn't mean...
Yeah, that was kind of rude, Ader.
Look, boss, your pa must have thought the same thing I think. That you're the strongest and the coolest, and you can do this if you wanna. And you ain't alone anyway. No, ma'am. Adderson, son of Gerfaz of the upper fields right here for you. All day, every day. Now, come on. How many hugs do the patroness need to feel better?
Aw, look at that smile. That's what we live for, you guys. Ader opened his arms wide, looking for a hug. He's gonna get tapped. He's gonna get vibe checked. Oh! It was a dagger. He found the tip of a dagger inches away from his big snout.
Well, someone don't like to hug in public. I know that now. Gotta? Yep. I swear on my one good eye that I ain't gonna forget it for the rest of my life. So, please, ma'am, let me live a little longer.
Ina looked confused for a moment. She dropped the knife in a hurry as soon as she realized that she was still wielding it. Clearly flustered, she tried to sign some sort of apology, which in turn led Ader to apologize as well, which conversely made Ina attempt some sort of embrace as compensation. So in the end, they just shook each other's arm awkwardly and called it a day. Classic.
Oh,
that's what we do in high school.
Just kiss already.
Illigrab! It's you! Tree. Big tree man. Ader and Ina immediately jumped away from each other, doing their worst, best attempt at looking half-professional. A thunderous laugh resonated over the ruckus of the bazaar.
Illigrab?
It's respectable Illigrab Buntalos to you, boy.
I love this guy.
But please, don't hold back on my account. I'll just look the other way. What?
And so appeared the man that was so red it would seem that he'd stolen all the color his daughter was lacking.
Patron!
Ah, so he gets the respectful treatment and I don't. I see how it is.
What's that salacious doll cop doing to my daughter now?
Hey, what you doing? I'm trying to sell wares here.
they're just strengthening their ties of friendship. Ah, or is this a budding love?
Illigrab's my favorite. Sorry, everybody. I've decided. The merchant shook his cane, hitting Illigrab's twiggy leg with a loud thunk. The tree man just wiggled his mustache in response.
Whoa, 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 whoa! Hold up, hold up. We weren't doing anything, patron.
That's the problem, you come aground! You light a sack! You...
Cough, cough. A coughing fit saved Ader from more old-timey insults, which he could barely comprehend. Ader, you absolute milksop. Once he'd recovered, the merchant put his bearded face next to Ader's, resting the tip of his cane on Ader's chest. He opened his toothless mouth slowly, his breath reeking more like bleach than liquor.
You haven't sold a single thing, have you?
Ina says exclamation mark.
Now, that's hardly their fault, Bread.
I'm sure this Yaltson was just frolicking with my daughter as usual!
Yaldson is charged.
She's old enough to frolic as she pleases.
She hasn't even come of age yet!
Of course she hasn't. There's no way for her to pass that right.
Of course there is! She just needs to open her mouth and stop being an idiot!
The only idiot here is the one talking, patron. Ana's just mute.
I wish that rub off on you! And maybe you'd learn to keep your mouth shut when adults are talking!
But I did pass the coming of age right, sir. I got them adult horns and...
Shut up! Don't you have anything to say about this, insolent child? Ana?
Ah, well, she's out.
She walked away while you two were arguing.
That's my boy Illigrab, giving us the context we need.
Then why didn't you say so sooner, you overgrown sapling?
She looked like she needed it.
He said it with authority.
This is all your fault! And yours!
He stabbed Ader's nose with the tip of his finger.
What did I do?
That stupid child's been acting up since you first arrived!
Don't blame the poor boy. She's always had an attitude, and you know it.
I don't care! You two better go bugger off somewhere else! Or I swear to Arab that I'll hit you so hard that you'll be cropping out your teeth for a week!
How many teeth do you have that you can crap them out for a week? Oof. Probably all of them. Both Ader and Illigrab winced at that.
Now hold up, what?
Come on, Adder. Those two clearly want some alone time. And he'll have plenty of that when I leave him tied to the pyre next time I find a mob outside the shop.
Illigrab took Ader by the cape and lifted him off the ground as they walked away. It didn't take Illigrab long to notice Ader's unusual reticence to speak.
Please, don't let Red's words affect you. He's, worse today. There's a storm coming from the west, and it's making us old people nervous.
Nah, the patron can preach and holler all he want. That don't bother me much. I mean, I don't cry anymore, at least.
Aww.
What he said to Ana, though, now that's going 2 paces past the league too far. So what if she can't swear the oath thing? The 3 won't get mad at her for being mute. And anyway, Ana don't got a pass no right. It ain't like she's getting married any day soon, right?
There. Got it all out of your system, boy?
You know what? All this stuff I'm saying means radish stew if I don't say it to her face. I gotta find her and make sure she's alright.
Illigrab didn't reply to that last affirmation. He placed Ader carefully on the ground and patted his cape to straighten it.
Well, in that case, I have to go back to keeping watch on the fair. So, this is where we say goodbye for today. Hey, I'll send someone to fetch you if I see her, okay?
Ader nodded resolutely. They waved goodbye to each other. And he he stomps off. And then the book just stood there wondering where to start looking when the bazaar was half a league from gate to gate. How much is a league? A league is... It's on the order of miles, right? Couple miles, couple kilometers, something like that. Assuming she was still in the bazaar at all.
Finally! I thought that fluffy bastard was never leaving.
Hey, it's our good drunk, Joff. Joff walked into the scene with a huge smile as the giant disappeared in the distance.
Afternoon, Mr. Bard.
Oh, lad, what a face.
Well, see, it's a long...
It's a long snout.
Ah, not a word. Thy mean speaketh clearer than thy tongue doeth.
This is the second time the Hayseed Knight has used mien to, Mien? Instead of face. Interesting.
You're hungry.
Nah, I ain't in the mood to...
Well, I am. And I can't play a song when my stomach's growling a gazelle. Let's get some fried leaves.
Fried leaves.
Sorry, Bard, I ain't got time for any of that. I gotta go look for Aina. She just ran away angry as all get out, and I know darn well if I don't go check up on her, no one's gonna...
And I thought my songs were monothematic.
Joff picked up the strings of his oud one by one, deep in thought, while Ader just paced around.
I know just the place to look.
You do? Joff expertly snuck through the crowds, moving with such ease that he seemed to be little more than a shadow. Ader did his best to keep up with him, though that was hardly an easy task when he was one head taller than most other deer. The place Joff was looking for wasn't in the plaza itself, surrounded by stalls and all their merchandise, but rather on one of the many alleys that led to the bazaar. The crowd there was bustling with life as well, but not quite in the same manner. They were all rowdy deer, pushing and cheering. A Carnme alley. Carnme alleys were different from the official sort. While killing was still very much frowned upon, there was no chivalry, no one set of rules. There was no way of knowing if the horns you were being gored with were hygienic. There were punches and kicks and all sorts of cheats. It was chaos. And for that and several other reasons, Ina was a huge fan of unofficial Carnme. Alright everyone, we got the Hayseed Knights version of Lucha Underground. Who is ready to DDT a motherfucker tonight? Sadly, as much as Ader jumped and pushed and yelled, she wasn't anywhere to be found.
Alas, your fair maiden is in another... Alas, your fair maiden is in another alley.
Every so often I go to move my mouse and I hit my scroll wheel and it goes back one. Ader cast a long glance over the improvised battlegrounds, attempting to find her one last time.
That's too bad. Aina kicked some serious ass here.
Good thing she's not allowed to fight.
Yeah, ain't no way they're gonna let it do.
A golem at her.
So Ina's not a doe, she's a golem. Joff cast a very serious look in his direction. That wasn't the first time they'd had this discussion, and it wouldn't be the last.
How many times do I gotta tell you? Aina is not a golem, okay? She's a doe. It's just she's a bit of a weirdo.
Weirdo. Right.
Classic weirdo.
Tell me, Adder dearest, how many albino does can you name off the top of your head that can lift your heavy butt with just one hand?
Aina! Now let's go! We gotta find her!
Look at her.
Again, sorry.
Golem or not, she's just a little cabbage head hiding in the crowds of this enormous city. She's damn good at hiding. And do you know why people hide?
Oh, it's because secretly they want to be found.
Because they don't want to be found.
Joff extended his arms towards him in a dramatic manner, remarking how correct he was.
You're not gonna find her. So why don't you go and use your thick skull for something useful? Like bringing us money so we can have dinner for once.
Joff pointed at the ring with his horns, and Ader knew better than to insist. With a heavy sigh, Ader nodded and began walking towards the ringmaster. Okay, just to be clear, I think his horns are real. Yeah, no, his horns are real. I was wondering if there was some sort of subtext that I was missing about whether or not Ader's horns were fake or whatever, but I think they said earlier they're just small. So
Ah, wait, there's just one more thing. Your bag of coins. You wouldn't want to lose what little we have to the hands of, say, some ill-intentioned crook, now would you?
what's the implication here?
Better the evil you know, right?
And Joff extended his hand a bit too keenly, waiting for Ader to find the purse he usually hid within his sash. But
Whoa, Bard, you're really gonna bust a gut laughing.
Don't tell me you lost it.
Alrighty then.
Joff's scrawny body trembled like a branch about to snap off.
Just go. All right. See that sweaty blackhead over there with the glistening fur and that charming smile? That's your foe. I'll go place my bet now. Are you feeling like a winner, ladder?
Charming. Oh, hold up! You mean the guy with them sharpened horns? Oh, darn, Bard. Your confidence in this poorly put together row is much appreciated, but as much as it hurts me, and it does, I think I'd rather go to bed hungry today.
What?
What if it hits me in the face? I don't want to go from Adder the one-eyed to Adder the no-eyed!
Then do enlighten me, my boy, on how in the name of the Hatsa do you pretend to become a knight if you can't handle even a rack pointed at you? No wonder you can't even catch a hint, yellow piece of mangy venison.
So that was very rude of him,
Sorry about that.
I assume.
What are you mumbling there, Goff?
I said I'm going to walk you through this. So, oh, help me three if you mess up.
Hey, let this toe in. And a girl, you sure eat your veggies.
Yeah.
But those sticks on your forehead, I can't fool anyone.
You sure eat your veggies is probably the most creative cat call I've heard in a very long time.
If he's serious, this is gonna be easier than I thought.
Wait, there's a fight coming up! Holy horns, you have to tell me everything about it! What kind of fighting style did Adder use? Was it antler rattling? He was a rattler, right? Did he prefer grappling or thrusting? Or was he more of a brawler instead? Swish, swish, bam! Punching them right in the... Wait, did they even have any hand reps his size?
Give me a moment. I think I have to sneeze. What were any of those words? I don't really know the rules of Karnmei. I thought you just had to hit people until they fainted. Oh god, nothing I can come up with is gonna live up to our expectations. Oh, I can't deal with the pressure. Ah! You said that you knew the... Sorry. You said you knew the night like the palm of your hand, didn't you? The new bearer of a tale of this magnitude should be able to pen a memorable fight scene all their own if that's the case. Prove you're worthy of your name, Lynn.
Oh my god, you're right! Yes, this is my moment to shine! Leave it to me!
I have a feeling we're in for a tone shift. Yes, good. I shall go and leave you to it, so as not to influence you.
Let's see, what would the knight do? Right! He needed a few tips first. So Kyof took Adder aside and held him under his arm. He said, Adder, mine lad, 'tis a dangerous fight that awaits us. But if not in the strength of thy body, I believeth in the strength of thine heart. What would thee saith is the greatest feat a fighter should at each moment striveth for?
That's a lot of F's.
Diggity yee-haw, Bard! What a tootin' rootin' mighty fine question that is. Adder nodded thoughtfully to himself and then continued, I reckon that would be...
Honor.
Honor, as expected of a knight, dearest friend. Thou shalt be a rattler then. Ah, honorable style amongst honorable styles. The way our ancestors squareth, whereto dear shalt proveth the might of their horns, rather than that of their mind. But hoy, Bard, yelped Adder. Mine horns are so teeny tiny.
Wait, does she have a wrap on her face to imitate Ader?
You've smirked. This is where you
Wait, she
swing around,
does.
my otter. There is an advantage to short horns, thou see. No one shall be able to lock their horns around yours to grapple thee to the ground. Your advice is now unwise, Yoff. This is why I love you so.
Hey there,
very
Soro.
dearly.
Welcome. Right now, the narrator and Lynn are narrating the story. The narrator was like, I actually don't have any idea what the rules to this fight that I brought up were. So he's like, I'm just gonna let Lynn make this whole deal up.
Adder, you beautiful boar.
So now Lynn is
Everyone will find
doing a
out if
conversation
I
between
keep
Geoff
talking
and
so
Adder.
loud. We mustn't. Let the whole world bask in the warmth of our passion.
Never mind, she's just making it a slash fic now.
Oh, Adder. Smudge, smudgy smudge.
Lynn, how's that scene going?
It's going.
Ader found himself alone at last, his dearest friend lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins were starting to pop in his eye, making it harder to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with sharp horns smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Ader. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as the drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure that both fighters knew what they were about to get into. He lifted his hand carefully as he stepped back, and then... Go! He screamed with a hand chop. Ooh, do we charge or do we wait? Ooh, I don't know. That's tricky. Wait. Well, he was pretty timid earlier. So that would seem like that would track a little bit better. I guess we'll wait. The towering deer charged towards Adder like a runaway fur, horns lined and ready to slam into him with the full force of a Mechadar stampede. But the road didn't move a single muscle. Ader merely waited, silencing all the voices that screamed at him to run and die. He didn't even assume the Stepper Rider stance. He just waited, closing his eyes lest the sight of his incoming enemy would betray his nerve. And when the time was right... Let's grapple. Ader opened his arms wide, mentally prepared and ready for the incoming attack. Or so he thought. The deer slammed his head into Adder's stomach, nearly sending him to the ground with a single well-placed blow. But when all seemed lost, Adder managed to stand his ground, rapidly holding onto his foe's horns. Adder's foe smirked. By the time the hero realized he had fallen into a trap, his whole body was hovering several arms up over the ground. The carrot strikes back. What a foul move. He would have turned Adder into a strainer if the yellow deer had a single bite's worth of meat in his body. If that had been the case to begin with, he would have been able to struggle against his enemy's hold as he flew across the sky. Or at least he would have been serene enough to come up with a different approach to the situation. Aw, did I fail? But for now, face to the pavement it is. Ah, wait! I died! Wait, what do you mean I can try again or think it... Let's try that again. I want to wait. You realize that there was no such thing as a right time when one has absolutely no idea what to do next. I'm gonna get this guy killed. He's trying to figure out what his fighting stance, what the right fighting move should be. The only thing that struck him was a brick wall as he flew all the way across the alley, and right past any chance of ever amounting to anything in his life. You're dead to me. Let's try that again. Alright. Apparently I'm bad at video games. This was no time to hesitate. Both the Roe and his opponent rushed towards each other headfirst, heeding the scream of an ancient instinct that boiled in their bloods. Every voice in the alley fell silent once the deer slammed into each other, horns singing a threatening melody as they rattled fiercely in a never-ending battle for dominance. The tension could be cut with a knife as their foreheads pushed in against each other, but Goff's advice proved unerring indeed. As much as he tried, the bigger deer could not intertwine his antlers around Ader's short, straight ones. Well, now what? The answer was clear, of course. A barrage of swift punches to the other deer's face would have sent his brain bouncing all over his skull. Would have been an obvious choice to anyone with deer-sized hands, to any honorless ruffian. Refusing to even consider such lowly tactics, our hero decided to take the moral high ground. And die. And the physical, too. Tired of this pointless dance, the deer pushed Ader back with a swift head movement. Before Ader had the chance to react, his foe slammed his head just below the roe's chest, knocking all the air out of him and lifting him right off the ground with ease. Ader flailed his one free arm and legs most valiantly, but there was little he could do in such a compromising position, worn out as he was after trying to uphold his honor as a brave warrior with such a direct approach. And crack. I could not tell if that was the sound of Ader's neck or Ader's teeth as his face hit the ground at full speed. But little did that matter, for nothing lay more broken than his dreams. You're dead. Medically? Well, we tried, everyone, but it turns out we're really bad at video games. After such a shameful defeat, the writer decided to take a page from Ader's book, literally. She began writing these words as a means to stall her own anxiety as she tried to understand how she managed to dig herself into such a narrative hole. She had certainly made a mistake somewhere. It was obvious to her prodigious mind that a boy so preoccupied with doing what was good and true and right would hardly be willing to do whatever it took to stand victorious and carve a space for himself in the annals of history. Our wonderful narrator started to realize that, perhaps, she had misunderstood something about Ader. For she could picture no scenario where a well-meaning and upstanding street fighter could ever get past his first night in the Slander District. Omelin de Billy of Askadaz, true descendant of the Night, decided to revisit her decision, thinking more deeply about what kind of priorities her ancestor would have. What if we say honor here? I kind of want to do honor just to like, just for the fuck of it, because I know that it's like that has to be wrong, right? But what happens? I want to find out.
Honor, as expected of a knight, dearest friend, thou shalt. But hoy, you've smart.
Oh, we have to do this all again. All right. Never mind. It's just going through all the fight scenes again. All right.
Ah, so thou art a brawler, dearest friend. I have indeed taughteth you well. There is no honor in death. If thine horns will not aid you in battle, use those hands the gods gave you. Pummel them to the ground. Thou shalt win this fight and prevail until the next.
Hey, Lynn figured it out. Nice. It only took us going through every wrong option.
But hoy, Bard! Yelped Ader. Mine hands are so bogglingly big!
You know what her voice reminds me of? Reminds me of Peridot from Steven Universe. I just realized that.
You've smirked. All the better to swat their faces away. If they trieth to thrust towards thee with their large horns, thou shalt only need to slap them into the ground. Stand victorious over those who would hurt you, mine Adder.
And then they smooched again. And then they smooched again, but quietly. Adder found himself alone at last, his dearest friend lost to the blurry tides of people surrounding the ring. Veins were starting to pop in his eye, making it harder to see anything except the stag waiting in front of him. The deer with sharp horns smirked in his drunken haze, clearly looking down on Adder. It wasn't the first time someone pitied him and lived to regret it, as the drunkard would soon learn. The ringmaster looked left and right, making sure they... Let's charge. This was no time to hesitate. Both the roe and his opponent rushed towards each other headfirst, heeding the scream of an ancient instinct that boiled in their blood. Every voice in the alley fell silent once the deer slammed into each other, horns singing a threatening melody as they rattled fiercely in a never-ending battle for dominance. Now we can punch him in the face. The tension could be cut with a knife as their foreheads pushed against each other. But Goff's advice proved unerring indeed. As much as he tried, the bigger deer could not intertwine his antlers around Ader's straight, short ones. Tired? What? Didn't I? What? How did we die? How did we screw that up? Ah, oh well. Oh wait, I thought it was rushing in and then, but whatever. Guys, it turns out I'm really bad at video games. Yeah, yeah. Alright, let's try this again. Oh. Okay, so he didn't move a muscle. Now we grapple. Okay. Ader opened his arms. But to reach the heights that awaited him, he had to live another day. Surviving isn't always the most honorable path, but it's the path we choose in this house. Okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't remember if this was the sequence that got us to this point. Which is why I wasn't narrating. At first, there was silence. Then, roaring laughter and trots and jeers. The drunk deer needed a moment to realize they were being directed. At him. He reached down to pull up his pants as best he could, hastily hurling Ader away after his dirty trick. Still holding his foe's belt, Ader fell on his massive hands, barely managing to keep his head over the ground to avoid a shameful defeat after he'd already stooped so low. His foe was distracted. What now? Flying roundhouse kick. Just hit him. No, am I gonna... Emboldened by his spectacular success, Ader lowered his body over his hands like a spring and launched himself into a flying kick. God damn it. And promptly fell on the ground face first, breaking his snout on the pavement because this obviously isn't that kind of story, Lynn. Come on! How bad do I have to be at this game? Well aware of the direness of his situation and the nullness of his pride, Ader decided that he had nothing to lose anymore. He may as well go down in flames. Amen. Our protagonist called out to his opponent, loudly mocking him as he jumped from hand to hand, making a fool out of both. The drunk deer turned around, red in shame and fury. He swore and raged and charged at Ader once more, overlooking the tiny little fact that his pants were still down. Got him. Guess this is a total failure? No, it's just... I don't think that this is designed to... It's not like a... It's not like a... You have to start again. It's just like... I mean, it's a visual novel, right? So you're not gonna, like, have to start over again and to check... Well, yes, I failed as much as I possibly could have, but we're still gonna get to go forward. The whole alley watched in silence as Ader's foe fell so obstreperously to the ground. Blood out and everything. Our protagonist stared blankly ahead as he got up. His expression as unreadable as that of the public. It was pretty clear that this was a victory of sorts. Yeah. But no one was saying anything. Tenza! Hi! Yes, I also do. I was in a... Yeah, Maxie is a pretty awesome person and a pretty awesome creator, which is why we're playing their game. Holy shit! Maxie, welcome! How are you doing, my friend? I'm enjoying this tremendously so far, although I fucked up I fucked up the fight scene so badly. I'm so sorry. Also, Illigrab is my favorite character now. I'm sorry, I've decided he's just the best. After a few uncomfortable harumps, the ringmaster scratched the back of his head, looked around vehemently, then proceeded to kindly pull up the drunkard's pants before screaming, "Down!" Yo, I was waiting to congratulate you on getting past the fight scene. Well, I didn't not get past the fight scene, I guess. I did choose every wrong thing, sometimes multiple times, but... and so, Ader emerged victorious, winning the fight on his own terms, questionable and messy as they may be, and living to see another day. Wait, so... he wins?
Of course he wins. He's the knight, you doof.
Also, I loved Lynn's smoochy fanfic part. It was great. Right. Well, never mind that then. Well done, Lynn.
I'm pretty great, yes.
Now, what's this torn page you're trying to hide behind your back?
Wait, don't!
It's more smooches. More smooches. Yeah, it's more smooches. So anyway, it was totally
I can't
smooches.
believe it! Still alive and kicking. Come on, show me the money, Bard.
Oh, thank you.
I want to bite every single coin.
I completely forgot to place the bet.
Geoff, you stupid motherfucker. Geoff covered his hands with his face with his hands, making some sort of unintelligible noise that can only be described as the very sound of anguish.
Hey, Big Ed, I want to lend some tips too. I'll buy you dinner.
Hey now, sir. You really think you're gonna steal my manager away? So
Geoff shut Ader's snout with one hand. Ader or Adder? I'm pretty sure it's Adder, right? But I keep saying Ader, so I apologize for that if I keep fucking it up.
My dear boy, you sure gave it all today, so why don't you go and enjoy what's left of the fair? I have a gig in the tavern later. Money, yes. Don't expect me tonight.
All right. With that, Geoff hurriedly shooed a very confused Adder away. Jesus Christ, Geoff, have some self-respect. Our protagonist wandered back toward the increasingly empty and silent plaza, unsure of where he was headed next. His victory had been but a brief rush against mediocrity, and now that he was alone, his mind sought the comfort of a familiar place, a seething pit in his chest. No, he had no business there. Adder spent enough nights hungry and alone to learn to eat his emotions for dinner. But still, his stomach protested, demanding to know when their next real meal would arrive. It's 2 a.m., so I'm going to scurry off to bed. Hope you have fun. Thank you. I certainly will. This has been a blast so far. I can't wait to get through the rest of it. I'm going to be doing chapters 1 and 2 tonight, and then chapter 3 tomorrow. So, thank you for dropping by. And I love the pick you did for me, by the way. This is awesome. It's the one currently on screen, you guys. Maxie did that. So cool. He could only walk a little farther to chase those thoughts away. Hold on. There you go. No matter how resilient he was, he would eventually get tired and stagger his way back home. Fall asleep in his little corner, dream a sleepless dream, and wake up to a drunk Geoff crashing in. He'd head off to work and Ina would get him some food. That's right, he held no doubt in his heart that his boss would come back. What had he made such a fuss for? Ina never missed a single day of work in the whole year he'd been working for her. A whole day of work. Sorry, I think I said a whole year of work. And anyway, she was way stronger than him. What could he do? He had no reason to say grand words or worry like he did. He never had. The sparse groups of citizens and visitors all around him still celebrated this blessed day. Dances and melodies and pastries a drifter from down yonder the steps would never be allowed to partake in. This was just another empty day in the life of Addersind, son of Gurfaz. Question mark! Exclamation mark! An abrupt lapse of lucidity made Adder turn his head away from his hooves at last. His ears perked up and his fur stood on end as he tried to make sense of the careless trip he'd just taken. The music was deafening all around him, the crowd untraversable. He didn't know how far he had walked or how he'd managed to make some space for himself, but it was obvious now that he had stumbled onto some sort of performance. A stage where the whole city would be looking. What a dream. But a remote voice in the back of his thoughts told him that he didn't have time to find out what kind of show could attract such a crowd. This was not where he was supposed to be. He knew his gut hadn't been lying to him when he caught sight of a small flickering light coming from a discreet tent, around which the crowd seemed to be oddly absent. His eye wouldn't budge away from that curious flame shining in the dark. He sensed its offer, warm and loud. Adder didn't even consider for 1 second that he may have been too hungry to think straight. He ignored all the warnings common sense would have taught him and marched straight into the tent. Dusk was still a ways off, but it may well have been midnight inside. Adder combed the darkness desperately, startled by the sudden change in illumination. Sweet, frightful clarity once more. What in the name of the hats was I thinking? He pondered in breathless silence as his mind started conjuring bandits, assassins, and monsters, ready to tear his cape into pieces and fashion toothpicks out of his horns for having been so reckless. But he didn't get to fret long, as his fears were interrupted by the birth of a flame in the corner of his sight. Its flare grew with unmeasured force, blinding him for a moment. He struggled to regain his vision, fearing those foes that lived only in his mind, foes he wouldn't face today either. And bathing in the light of an orb that was filled with fire, shaded in ways that made no sense whatsoever, awaited a feminine silhouette. A very feminine silhouette.
Took you long enough.
Hooray! It's Jasif. Quote-unquote Jasif. Of course it was her.
Yeah, it's not a living.
And all of a sudden, Adder wished he'd found a bandit instead. At least he would have known where to look then. He tried to fix his gaze on her eyes, shining above a thin pink veil that covered most of her face, but that was in vain. The sequins that hung from her neck reflected the light all over the room, dragging Adder's attention right back to them and the scarf that covered the bare minimum. I have 1,000 words to call the women in front of him, and none of them are good, so let's just say what she would... So let's just say that what she was wearing would be inappropriate now, let alone then.
Don't just stand there. Take a seat.
I don't know. I've been sitting on my tail all day, and I got places to go, and I don't usually share tents with ladies, and...
Judging by her glare, she wasn't going to take no for an answer. Well, if you insist.
What am I saying? It'd have been mighty ugly of me to reject an invitation.
Yes, it would. Adder did as asked and sat down on one of the many pillows laying around. Come on, Adder. Pretending to be crazy, escaping, begging the gods for mercy, breaking down and claiming that he wasn't in fact a horn eater. Whatever that means. That this was just a mistake and he shouldn't be here. Adder's mind was bustling with ways of getting out of the situation. Click on it. I got you. If I, like, stop doing something for a second, I'm probably just, like, fiddling with, like, a water bottle or something. So, of course, whenever his mind was busy, his mouth was free to speak as it pleased.
Hi.
He spoke with a voice more akin to that of a fawn whose antlers were just beginning to sprout than that of a fully grown deer. Let's say I'm Adder.
I'm Adderson, son of Gerfath, the buck who farms the highest hill in my village, Ravina Olis. So, here and there, just about everywhere, folks know me as Adder, of the upper fields.
That's nice.
Ain't it? It better be, because it's a lie, ma'am. They call me Long-Neck Shorthorns, or Adder Shovel Hands, or sometimes even Adder Shoeface.
Oof, that's rough. That's rough, buddy. A mocking chuckle stabbed Adder's heart. Feeling even more self-conscious than he thought he was capable of, he held onto his hooves and fixed his gaze on the ground, screaming inside as his face burned.
So it wasn't the contusion after all, huh? You're just like that.
Like what now?
Funny.
Funny? Me? Not one bit, ma'am. I ain't got a funny bone in my body. Doc and I ain't ever seen worse jokes than Adder scenes. Hold up. Didn't that sound like a poem just now? Well, darn. A poem ain't nothing but a dull song, Mr. Bard always says so. I'd hate to bore a fine lady such as yourself, so I better get...
Bore me? Please. With hands like those, you wouldn't look out of place in a traveling circus, or in some lord's court, if you're any good at juggling.
Wow. Alright. Kind of mean.
In fact, I know a certain gazelle in dire need of entertainment. What do you say? One word from Jasif, and you will be working in a palace tonight.
A tempting offer. Adder couldn't quite figure out if that was meant to be an insult or a compliment, but he was quick to decide that it was better to work for someone that didn't talk than for someone that talked about herself in the third person.
I think I'm gonna pass for now, but I'll holler at you next time I'm fresh out of pride, ma'am.
Adder, you pantsed a guy and want to fight like that. Yeah, I think you're fresh out. A deep silence filled the tent. Adder cursed his luck and his good manners. He wanted to run away and hide, fearing that otherwise he'd commit a big mistake. The kind of mistake that would get him called a horn eater for the rest of his life.
Well then, it was sure nice to see you again, but...
Would you like to know your fortune?
Adder turned on his heel, desperate to find out if her offer was indeed true. There was nothing that betrayed a lie in her words, nor in her eyes.
Whoa! You're one of those gazelle fortune tellers? For real?
I love that mouth shape. When he is surprised, his face turns into cone. Let's just say they looked rather different back in Adder's town.
Well, slap my head and call me silly. I got you pegged all wrong, man. Darn right I'd love to hear it. Oh, hold up. I lost my bag of coins. I ain't got a single Doro on me, so...
Something flew into the ground right beside Adder's foot.
My bag?
You dropped it right after you crashed the first time. I meant to give it back, but since you were so bent on running through that wall...
You didn't steal from it, did you?
Steal what? It's just filled with rivets.
Aha! That means you opened it!
So much for wanting to see you again.
Classic triple cross.
That was all. You can go now if you want.
A punch to the gut would have hurt Adder infinitely less than her words. What am I doing? He thought to himself, biting the inside of his cheek. No mere thief would have returned the bag, and as sad as that was, no other person had gone so far for him. And so he sat down once more, looking at the finely yet scarcely dressed woman in front of him, with a mix of embarrassment, naivete, and just plain fear.
I don't suppose you accept rivets as payment.
That would depend on what you're paying for.
Getting my fortune told?
Just keep them.
Jasif rested her arms over the crystal orb, leaning closer to Adder.
Oh!
Oops. Can you look into the ball thing and tell me how are my ma and pa doing? Did any of my little bros get married yet?
That's cute, but it's a reading glass, not a magic mirror.
Right. How about the weather? Can you give them good harvests?
Take your prayers to the temple.
Oh, darn, that won't do either. Alrighty then, how about me? What do you see in this buck's future?
Your future? Why would you want to know anything about that? Life would be boring if you knew it waits around every corner.
Well, then what kind of fortune is she gonna tell?
I'll read your past and justify your present.
Fair enough, I guess.
But I already know those things.
I don't.
Oh. Her blue eyes spoke like an insinuating whisper. Her fingers walked over the cobblestone ground, headed towards Adder's own hands as her face got ever so close.
For example, we could talk about why you did what you did for me then, and figure out what I could do to return the favor now.
I love Adder's face right here. The sequins that hung from her sash rang as they hit the ground, reminding him once more of her less than modest clothing. But no, she was no doe.
I gotta insist, ma'am, that you definitely got the wrong buck. But even if I ever did anything nice for you in my life, a simple thanks is more than enough payment.
I guess you could use a reminder too.
The soothsayer made no attempt to conceal her disappointment, much like no one ever made any attempt to explain to her what coming on too strong means. With apparent tedium, she grabbed the crystal orb and put it right between her face and Adder's. This time, she had no more pretensions than merely watching him.
Oh fire, tell me the secrets in the... Yada yada, stuff and bazaktet. I don't feel like switching languages now.
Her complete lack of professionalism made Adder feel, for once, at ease. After all, what would he do if he was indeed in front of a Seifi? One of those heinous Barhan wizards from back in time. Cry? Beg? Try to escape? Wait, those were things he'd already thought of doing. As Adder was considering the subtle differences in the fears he felt when talking to a girl, and imagining being burnt to a crisp by a witch, she watched him. And she kept watching. And then she watched some more. The gazelle lifted her head from behind the glass as she squinted her eyes into the fine lines. Whatever she was looking for, she couldn't find, but she still ducked behind the orb once more, hoping to reach some sort of conclusion. focused with such intensity that her eyebrows could have split her forehead in two and she wouldn't have noticed. Jasif pressed her mouth to one side, wiggling her nose and opening her eyes so wide at him that Adder couldn't help but laugh.
Shush. It's easier with two.
She mumbled the last part to herself, but Adder was sure that she'd said eyes.
Oh, what's that? You ain't never done it with a one-eyed deer before?
There's an Owo face. Adder pressed his lips together like he wanted to make them disappear. Jasif merely rose an eyebrow. His accidental innuendo made him begin shaking from horn to hooves once more. This poor guy.
Screw this.
She pushed the orb away with an exasperated sigh. Before Adder knew what was going on, his face was in her hands and her face right in front of his.
I need to find out if it was you after all. Stay still.
A drum beat in his ears. That was Adder's heartbeat as she stared at him so intently. There was a lump in his throat. He did his best not to tremble. His eye began feeling heavy, though he tried to hold her gaze. She was muttering something, words about his past, but her voice became obscured by the noise of the bells, the crackling of the fire, the sound of her own eyelashes batting against each other.
It's really too sodding late to be dealing with pests like you. And yet, here we are, wasting my time and yours.
Hey! What's that supposed to...
Adder's complaint vanished at spear point. 2 guards had replaced the gazelle, one old and complacent, one young, eager, and inches away from stabbing his nose.
Just who do you think you are?
Who do you think I am?
That was Jasif's voice, but as much as he tried to find her, Adden couldn't see her. In fact, he couldn't even move at all.
What? Ugh, I won't fall for your bar and mind tricks, Gazelle. I don't care if you're Hayseed or Jasud. Only nobles are allowed to walk the royal pathway. No exceptions.
Adder felt a lump in his throat as he unwillingly looked over the railings that he was leaning against. I thought they were in a tent.
I don't suppose you expect me to jump off the bridge.
The younger guard opened his mouth to reply, but his partner cut in line.
Can't you see that you're scaring her, you dimwit? Take a step back!
What? But she's trespassing.
The younger guard got smacked in the head for his efforts.
Settle down, boy! You forgot to clean your ears this morning or what? She said she's Jasif. Jasif! This girl's far more than nobility, see? She's a queen.
Ooh.
The queen of the desert, Rose no less. Now that's what I call a fancy title.
Oh, that's what I call a Vader. Vader, check it out. Vader. We got the queen of the desert Rose over here. Alright, I can't apparently do that. So let's just continue.
Call it whatever you please. It won't change the fact I am the one and only Jasif, and you are a dear with good taste. You must have heard my name in 100 whispers. So, just imagine how terribly worried Miss Rochelle will be if her favorite girl doesn't make it home before dawn.
Liar! There's no way the Desert Rose would have someone like you! Your kin shouldn't even be outside after curfew!
My kin? You mean gazelles who could buy your whole street?
So much for the open-minded youth. Forgive this fool, your majesty. He's so uptight I think he sat on his spear. I'm sure you know his kin. A fawn like him wouldn't know royalty if it spat in his face.
Politics.
He's got a point, though. Any gazelle could sneak up here and say she's a queen because she's the daughter of a goat with a bald spot on her head. You understand, right? We can't just take your word for it. Nothing personal, of course, it's just common sense. Here's a thought. Why don't you sway us with a little dance? I'm sure that Jasif would do anything for her subjects.
What are you saying, you numbskull? We're on duty, and she's not even a... Ugh, three's sake! We should just drag her to the dungeon and end this nonsense!
Yeah, spare me the lecture, kid. Hey, do one of those bar and dance things. That'll shut him right up. You know, the one with the fire and the bells and the...
The older guard cupped his chest and pretended to dance as he cackled, much to the revulsion of everyone involved. Adder could feel the tip of his tongue scraping against his teeth, far smaller and more well-aligned than he ever remembered them being. His patience was growing worryingly thin.
I could dance for you, if you don't mind having an early cremation.
Huh? Was that a threat just now?
Not at all. I'm just pointing out that I'm not dressed for the occasion. It would be a pity if your face was to catch fire and your skin burst into flames, turning your bones to charcoal inside your blazing corpse while your ashes moldered up here. Just because I didn't have a fireproof shirt.
Right. Well, it doesn't look like you have any other way to prove your words, Your Majesty.
I suppose I don't, but I bet my good friend Illigrab could find a way to prove them for me.
Illigrab knows her?
And walk you all the way across the city on the off chance we find that fidget arse of a tree sitting at his desk? We don't get paid that much, little lady.
A victorious smile crossed Adder's face, an opening at last.
I understand now. A discount isn't even remotely enough to cover the entrance cost of the Desert Rose on a poor, hard-working guard's salary. And that's not even adding the price of my performances.
The old guard's eyes shot open as he felt a few coins slipping into his hand.
Don't worry. I'm sure there's some places down the street that are better suited to your taste.
He remained transfixed by the money a moment longer, until something seemed to click in his head all of a sudden.
Who do you take me for, scamp? We are honor-bound city guards. We won't get buffed by the likes of you.
What? Come on. This was more than enough last time. Why isn't it working now?
The guards didn't react to that sentence at all. It was like they hadn't heard her, when Joseph's voice sounded loud and clear in Adder's ears. The thought passed as soon as it came. The quick, anxious looks the old guard was directing at his partner became the new focus of Adder's attention. The moment they locked eyes, the answer he'd been looking for became evident.
Of course. I should have noticed sooner. He's a new recruit, isn't he? Look at him. So eager and uptight. So focused on proving his worth to the captain. So predictable. You couldn't possibly trust someone like him with a bribe. He's too different from your old partner. But you couldn't trust that one either, could you? No, he knew too much. And he wasn't half as jaded as you are. His heart wasn't really in it. I see. You had a feeling he would end up going after you. So, you sold him out first. That's why he's here.
How did you...
What? So she's telling the truth? You take bribes?
No, well, maybe if it's enough. I mean, come on. It's just a goddamned bridge. What's the matter if we let rich people in at this point? They're no different from nobles. But I swear, I've never gotten money from this. No, I never even seen this. Gazelle?
The guard's face contorted into a deeply wrinkled scowl. He looked beyond confused, lost. The song was reaching its final notes.
Aw, looks like your friend has a bad case of guilty conscience. That's okay. I'm no one to judge. Just let me go this time. I promise I'll be a good girl and head straight home. You won't even know I've been here.
Adder started to walk, a little spring in his step as he barely recognized his tail wagging behind him. He felt above the moon, completely drunk from this power trip, but he was far from safe still. The strong hand clasped Adder's wrist tightly. This told him all he needed to know, that his body wasn't his body, this mind wasn't his mind.
But who else could it have been? You are the Jesse, aren't you? You really could buy this whole street if you wanted. But who else could? It was you! It was you all along! What did you do to me?
I only gave you money.
You gave me cursed money! No! You cast a spell on me!
What in the world are you rambling about now? You sound like a madman!
Yeah, that's right. I have gone mad. It's not my fault. I'm not really a crook. She's a Sephi. She must have charmed me to do all those bad things. We're on to you, witch. Confess!
This is going a lot of different directions. Every last fiber of her body was screaming at her to run. Jasif knew each and every corner of the royal pathway. She could have just hidden somewhere or outran 2 guards wearing heavy armor. That was the correct option. It was obvious to her. But that was not the choice she made. She pulled close to him and moved a smirk towards his ear instead.
I wouldn't waste any magic on you.
There wasn't any trace of fear in Jasif's mind as the guard grabbed her collar and pushed her against the railing. Not a speckle of resignation. It wasn't bravery either. There was nothing but anticipation. Adder didn't know the name of the eerie warmth that was creeping onto her chest as he watched the tip of his spear turn towards him in slow motion. He had never felt anything quite so peaceful and thrilling before. But to her, this lost battle seemed to be worth as much as a victory. After all, she'd been playing with fire her whole life. Getting burnt was an eventuality she'd been ready to accept for years. She was tired of making choices. Fractions of a second before the end of her life could be sentenced, a scream shook the night. Hey, Sora, thank you for the contribution to the community Curse Food Potluck Challenge, and I believe that takes us above the 50k mark, and by quite a bit. So honestly, I think I will be refunding you some of those. Thank you.
Get your mitts off her, you creep!
Adder comes in! Everyone turned around to look at the idiot yelling all the way down on the ground.
Think you can just bother a lass because she looks good enough for second helpings and then dessert? Well, you can't, alright? That's radish stew, and you'd make your ma cry if they knew. Let her go!
Adder had, most certainly, gone crazy.
What the? Oh, get lost, Sanford! This is official city business! It's got nothing to do with you!
City business, my ass! You're holding a gal up against the wall! I ain't got nothing to do with it, but it's still got everything to do with me! If it's so official, I'm gonna scream till the whole city wakes up and sees this!
No, you're not! Do something, rookie! Get rid of that drunkard!
What, you want me to throw my spear at some poor horn-eater now?
Who are you calling a horn-eater? Just hold up there!
Adder, the pudgy version of Adder that is, wasn't concerned with matters such as his complete lack of grace, agility, or strength. Moved by a sense of justice, he began climbing the column that led to the royal pathway. Oh, this is a flashback! Of course, he never made it.
Hey! Are you still alive? Horn-eater!
Aw, poor kid. We can't just leave him to die all on his own. Guess he'll be jumping off the bridge yet, witch.
Puzzling as the scene was, Jasif realized she didn't have another second to lose. With the guard's hand still firmly wrapped around her collar and pushing her back, Jasif threw all her weight on one leg, using her tail as leverage to complete a practiced spin that ended with her knee sinking deep between the deer's legs. Yeah, I was very confused. I thought that these guards just kind of like walked in and were like, hey, you can't be here. He immediately dropped to the ground, but it wasn't quite enough to knock him out.
You little...
That's enough. Let's go.
But she kicked me! And she's a witch! She's...
I have no clue what this gazelle is or what she's not, but I can tell just fine what you are. I'm not leaving you another second with her. Get that old ass back to the barracks or I'm telling Illigrab what you just did!
It was the older guard's turn to go pale. He lowered his helmet and began limping in the other direction. The younger guard, however, stood in front of her a moment longer.
You, go home and don't let me catch you up here again.
Jasif only allowed herself to breathe again once both guards had disappeared from sight. Pride filled her lungs faster than air.
Good riddance.
She wasn't quite out of the woods yet, but she decided to savor this victory, a moment of peace, which Jasif took to look over the railings one last time. Her wannabe savior now lay unconscious in the ground after hitting his head during the fall. Wow, he is really pudgy, huh? Very chonky. Big unit. And in spite of how miserable the scene was, Adder could feel a smile forming on his face. Her face. He finally understood that, crazy or not, he was seeing what she was seeing, the way she saw it. Okay, It took me about 60 seconds less than Adder to figure out that this was a flashback.
Did I scare him good?
Huh? You're awake? How in the name of Oblivion can you be conscious after a fall like that? You must be at least 5 stories high. Were we even trying to...
Oh, he fell over the edge?
No. That doesn't matter now. Are you hurt? Should I call a doctor?
Are you alright, ma'am?
You!
Are you alright, ma'am?
No. No, I'm not hurt. So, yes, that was nothing. I'm fine, thank you.
And that's all this buck needs to feel fit as a fiddle.
What? No, I'm rather certain that's not how bodies work.
Just yelling at each other from a bridge.
Oh, no, ma'am. You're thinking normal deer. I'm something else entirely.
The closed captions are stopped, by the way. Thank you. Give me a second to reset them. Okay. Test. Awesome. Okay, they should be back now. If not, then do a restart or a refresh.
Drunk is what you must be.
I sure hope not. It'd be a real shame if some barrel fever ruined the memory of your pretty face.
It wouldn't make much of a difference either way.
What was that, ma'am?
Cad! You are Cad! Does this look like a good time to be flirting to you?
A distant yell bounced through the columns, nearly sending Josephine's heart straight out of her chest.
Don't know about flirting, but it sure looks like a good time to get walking.
Then get up and walk! I can't just leave you to your fate now!
No, you ain't. You ain't leaving no one, ma'am. Slum dwellers like me come a door a dozen. I'll just play dead for a while and see if I could spend the night in the morgue.
More patrols were surely drawing closer by the minute, demanding she make a choice pronto.
This doesn't end here, understood? I will make it up to you somehow, so don't you dare die until then! Promise you won't forget it!
Whoa, wait, hold up. Who am I supposed to look for? I didn't even catch your...
And then he passed out. Neither Adder understood why she chose to run then, but she ran. She ran before that pitiful buck lying on the ground could finish voicing his request, pretending she hadn't heard him. But the answer she didn't give to the question he couldn't ask lingered a little longer in the space between old hopes and delusions, a sight that Adder found too engrossing to realize he was being left behind. Now the gazelle was far out of his reach, and with every step he felt her slipping away from his grasp a little further. He tried to keep up, but his legs wouldn't respond if it wasn't to her command. He tried to breathe, but he wasn't the master of his own lungs. His sight went dark and his ears turned deaf, a violent torrent of foreign thoughts clobbering his mind as his mind dissolved back into the nether. And as suddenly as he left, he found himself, one-eyed, famished, and back in the tent. Indeed, this had to be him. The same gazelle was still breathing over his snout, blue eyes fixed on him with the intensity of a burning sun. But who cares about having a half-naked beauty all over their body? Not Adder anymore, no. A million questions filled his mind. Was that the real life? Was it just a fantasy? Were any more of his memories slipping through that many cracks in his flogged skull? Or had starvation finally started to take a toll upon his very brain? As was usually the case, however, his lips refused to wait for a finished script. They raced past Adder's mind, offering an answer to the only question he had never even asked.
Sep?
Sep? This word, so short and unassuming, seemed to awaken something in a girl that Adder was almost too dazed to recognize. He couldn't tell yet why her ear perked up, or why his gaze was immediately drawn to her horns and the beautiful mass of red locks she was desperately pulling behind them. Disconcert washed away all conceit from her expression, took away all the mesmerizing superiority from her eyes. Yes, she looked honestly and utterly tiny for a moment. Scared.
Where did you hear that?
Where did I... Oh! Ma'am, you're okay! You're gonna think I'm crazy, but I heard you say it just now. But not now. It was a long time ago.
I just realized Adder's doing a pog face. That's what he's doing.
I was under Hirup's statue. I mean, you were, but I was you and not me because I was trying to save you, but I fell on my face and those guards laughed at me and, just how the hell did I forget any of this? Why can't I remember?
You're a gaze reader.
What? Anger hit her like a wave as the shock disappeared.
Why didn't you say so? Get away from me!
The fire in the orb began flickering erratically, casting disturbing shadows all over the tent.
Whoa, what's going on? What in the name of Atza did I do now? Was I supposed to say something? Thank you. That the magic word?
Do you seriously expect me to believe that you...
Hold on. Simp? It was Simp, wasn't it? Oh crap, I just went and cussed a lady out in Gazelle speak, didn't I?
She looked at him with skepticism, her eyes squinted with barely concealed anger. She was clearly sizing him up.
No. You really don't have a clue of what you just did, do you?
Ma'am, if I ever got a clue in my life, it wasn't today. I'm just glad you're alright and that guard is in the dungeon or dead or something.
Her expression relaxed just a little as she considered Adder's words. Our poor boy had more than enough trying to get some air in his lungs.
Then you're telling me that you're a natural gaze reader? Do you even understand what this means?
Do I have to say yes or no to get out of here alive?
Yep. A small chuckle erased all the tension from her face. Adder felt even more confused upon seeing this.
I was trying to read your gaze, but you read mine instead. It's called gaze because we invented it. So, it's true what they say about yellow deer. You must have Barhan blood.
Adder would have normally disputed the last affirmation. Roe deer took pride in being real deer, no gazelle blood at all. Nope, not 100% deer with that doesn't have horns. This was clearly not the moment nor the company to say that.
In Sirnar, please.
You read my mind.
Say what? I think I'm not the funny one here, Missy.
The gazelle seemed way too amused with this development.
No, it makes so much sense. I was wondering why you spent so much time looking at my face. Hear me out. I'm sure you've always been really good at getting people's feelings. But not smart enough to actually understand them. You're like some kind of savant hick. That's hilarious.
A wrinkle formed over Adder's snout. That was quite enough.
My name is Adder, not Hick, Miss Sepp. Now why'd you go hiding such a cute little name, I wonder?
Her face went back to being a little more than a pretension of grandeur, but she held the fire close to her. She didn't look all that different from a child hugging her blanket, soothed by the rhythms of the bells she wore. Adder couldn't help but notice that her alarming clothing didn't even bother him anymore.
It's just a stupid nickname someone gave me. I hadn't heard it in years. They call me Jasif now.
Jasif. As that disgusting guard well said, that was no average name, and much less for a Barhan.
Ain't that something like Queen in Gazelle speak?
Bazaktet. And yes, that's a valid translation. Do you have any qualms about it?
Adder did not have any qualms, per se, nor any remote idea what that word meant to begin with. He certainly had opinions on her supposed royalty. Oh, it's a choice. He seems like he would be flustered by royalty.
No, that's cool, Jasif. Did I say that right? I mean, if you need people calling you Queen to be happy,
I don't need to be called anything to...
Adder didn't mean anything with that, but he'd somehow managed to say something rude all the same. She didn't finish the sentence, deciding instead to just look away.
Are you alright?
She turned her face sharply towards his. There was something different in the way she was looking at him.
Adder, right?
That's me.
He took a hand to his heart and bowed his head as an instinctive greeting, accidentally clashing his horns against hers. Oh no. He was surprised to find out that somehow that was a lot less gross than he thought it'd be. He didn't know how to feel about this appreciation.
Didn't you want to know your future? Then listen closely.
Oh! She put her mouth right next to his ear and whispered.
You're coming with me tonight.
Where?
You really are one of a kind. Come to the Desert Rose when the lights are all out. My room is on the first floor, but climbing there should be easier than climbing the bridge at the very least.
Wait, climb? Room? There you go saying weird stuff again. I'm not a thief, and I'm not a hoarding...
Well, Sep killed him before he could finish that sentence. Oh well, this was a great game, everyone. Without previous warning, the fire in the orb extinguished, leaving the room in total darkness. Adder didn't even have time to feel ashamed. He felt her hands on the back of his head, and the next he knew, her lips were all over his. His mind shut up completely.
See you later.
He couldn't even stop to consider how he felt about that before the kiss was over. With his mind still in a daze, he got up and turned around to leave. For a few moments, he stood frozen outside the tent, merely appreciating the cool dusk breeze on his fur. By the time his thoughts began making any sense, he was already running home at full speed, crying disconsolately about the realization that he was, in fact, a horn eater. Horns become her. Let's take a break here. I want to review what you've written so far.
What, you don't trust my writing skills?
No, obviously.
Feels good to be loved.
It really does.
So, Adder was a gaze reader, just like me.
Yes.
And he really was into Sep in the end, which explains a few things.
A few.
If Adder and Geoff had an unlikely yet alluring, brief, intense romantic involvement, how would it have been called? Gitter? Adif?
Pandering.
Then I guess the only question I've got left is this going anywhere at all?
Huh? What do you mean? You've learned a lot about your beloved knight already, haven't you?
Yeah, sure. Don't take me wrong. I like your take on the story so far. I just can't figure out how any of this leads to him becoming a knight, much less the knight.
Patient little Nashgab. All shall be revealed.
Like your major crush on Sep?
Oh, what?
You can put all the words you want in Adder's mouth. I know an obsession when I see one.
Go get your eyes checked then.
I'm gonna go back and count how many times you've mentioned her butt.
No, or just... That's it. You're not hearing another word about her.
What? Boo! This is a biased recount. I'm calling Radish Stew on this.
I never claimed to be objective, you tiny insurgent. It's my story and I'll share it however I see fit.
Unbelievable! You are silencing the very truth you champion! Whatever shall become of Adder's story if you bear Revis of the Pootie?
There are more characters in this story, you know.
Were you in love with them too? Okay, take it as yes!
You know, looking back on it, there is someone I should have loved more. Honestly, she was about rough around the edges, and she wasn't always the easiest kid to be around. But the reward for persevering by her side was the unwavering loyalty of an iron-hearted friend.
Sounds like a nice girl.
Oh no, she was horrible and I hate her.
What?
Chapter 2! Ghost at the Feast, or Lessons on the Matter of Peaceful Conflict Resolution. Alright, that's Chapter 1. Now, as far as I have...
Hey! If it ain't my lil boss!
Never mind, we're
How you doing, ain't it? Having a mighty fine day?
As far as I know, Chapter 1 is about 20% of it. Chapter 2 is about 30% of it, and then chapter 3 is about 50% of it, roughly speaking. So that was chapter 1. That was interesting. That was also very intriguing. I'm gonna grab a drink of water really quickly. Or actually, I don't have any water, so I'm gonna grab a drink of a soda. Because I didn't realize that this would be so narration heavy. At least if I'm doing all of the, at least if I'm reading all of the text that isn't voiced. You know the CC isn't in the box. Yeah, with the thing, I guess the thing. If you hover over it and go to the option setting, you can actually choose options to resize it and move it around. Which, for example, if you go to settings, enable square box text. And then you can actually move it yourself. At least I'm pretty sure you should be able to. So that's what those recommended settings are for. If you're on mobile, unfortunately, it doesn't work as well. So I apologize for that. But you should be able to move it around and place it in the box. And if not, then it's just kind of there. So let me know if you're not actually able to do anything with it. It was my impression that it was fairly customizable on the viewer side. But if you're actually not able to, then give me a second. I'm pretty sure I'm not the one that does all of it. But if I am, then well, 1 second, at least I'll make it on my screen the way I think it's supposed to be. Bingo bango. Yes. Yeah, all you have to do is hover over the screen and then click the gear button on settings, where it says settings. Yes, excellent, excellent. All right. Whew. I'm also, give me a second, I'm gonna go turn my fan on. And so that I'm not burning alive in here. All right. Well, this has been extremely fun, and I'm glad that Maxie stopped by to say hi. So let's keep going, and we're going to go all the way through Chapter 2 today, like I said. Ina looked at what little sky could be seen among the rooftops. The sun wasn't even out yet.
I know what you're thinking. Why is this fine buck loitering around the temple so early? Well, none of that. You had me so worried, so worried, that I just had to come down and check up on you. And sure enough, here you are. And here I am. First again. Yep, I'm just killing it tonight.
First in the contest of people acting suspiciously, that's for sure. But of course, Ina couldn't say a word about it. She signaled to Ader to follow her to the forge since he was already there. A workday would have to start early. Actually, sorry, not related to the game itself. I'll probably change up the instructions so that it's a little more, it's a little more intuitive. It's a little easier to follow in terms, so you don't have to like wonder why that box is there. Oh. Work at the forge when something like this. Ina worked on her craft, and then she gave Ader whatever menial task would make him feel useful. She didn't have any proper accreditation that named her a smith, so he wasn't technically her apprentice either. But that didn't really matter to either of them.
Rivet here, rivet there. And this weird one's going to my rivet collection.
There was something different in Ader that day. Something had changed. She could feel it.
Hey, boss. If you're all done staring at me, I'm gonna get back to work. Those shields won't rivet themselves.
All right, Ader has some sort of post-event glow. Lies. After hours upon hours of hard work, I guess, it was time for a break. Lunchtime! Lunchtime. The most tranquil time of day for both Ader and Ina. Not that either were ever under any real stress, mind you, but the predictability of lunchtime itself helped ease Ina's turbulent temperament and Ader's talkative stomach.
What have we got in store today, boss? Is it tater time? Is it tater time yet?
Tater time. Ader had long since dubbed this short period away from the forge as potato time, since that was always the menu at Chez Ina. Today was double potato time, since she'd forgotten to get him some food the day before.
Look at them taters! So tiny and cute! Oh boy, they look so freshly dug out, one of them still got dirt on it!
Himbo
Not a
ASMR.
problem, boss. They're just... Ugh.
Ugh. Now that didn't sound like an Ader sound.
Did these things always taste like this?
Ader tried his very best not to look absolutely disgusted as he turned the 20 or so tiny raw potatoes into puree with his pestle-like teeth.
Ah, what a wonderful scene! My favorite furry potato and temple turnip sharing a meal after their heartfelt reunion.
Okay, I'm pretty sure this is the second story of this. Illigrab's enormous face appeared next to the window. Ader, for once, didn't scream in a panic.
You don't look so good, Ader. Don't tell me you stayed up all night looking for your sweetheart.
I just love Ina's face in reaction to that.
Good old Illigrab. Sleep is for bucks that ain't got a lady waiting for them. Good old...
There's no need to be so dramatic, lover boy. Ana's a grown-up. She knows when she wants some space. And it's your duty as an upstanding citizen to respect the wishes of a lady. Or else.
I love that he stopped. I love the fact that his expression got more menacing when he stopped glaring.
Your bribe is ready, you upstanding lubberwort!
Fine! It's a fine, not a bribe.
Ader cast his gaze down as Illigrab walked away, leaving him alone before Ina's judgment. Or he would have been judged if Ina hadn't turned 20 shades of red and become incapable of rational thought, after Ader failed to deny that she was his sweetheart.
Hey, boss. I gotta get early today. I need to get back my, Goff's hat from the tavern. You know what they say, the hat makes the stag, and he ain't no one without it.
Eh? Huh?
Why can't he go get it like a grown-up? Well, that's cause he broke his leg. Gosh, no, it ain't broke, no ma'am. That dumbass just went and twisted his hoof the wrong way. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, bye, see you tomorrow.
Ader ran away, muttering something that sounded very much like prayers to himself. One strange day wasn't anything to be afraid of. Ina's apprentice had plenty of strange days in 1 year.
These are some lovely taters, boss. Perfect potatoes. But I couldn't fit one more bite in my tummy if I tried. No, ma'am. I'm just gonna take these home and stuff my face in front of Goff later. I ain't sharing a single one with him. Nope. No way I'm giving all them taters to him or anything. Yep.
Ina was more than happy to collaborate in any plan that involved in making life harder for the contestant to worst bard an heirloom, but the strange days passed and they kept passing.
And that's when I told the king, bite me. You should have seen my father's face. His leaves dried right up. I spent a whole moon literally grounded.
You mean you don't remember who broke into the warehouse?
Oh, well, okay. Sudden, inciting action, I guess.
I don't know, Master. It's like the memory had vanished from my mind.
It's a weirdly specific way of putting it.
I'm gonna vanish you from existence!
Both deer began clashing horns while Adder and Illigrab stared at the scene.
Can you believe that?
I know! Can't deer go 10 minutes without starting a fight? No offense, kiddo.
No, I mean, can you believe he forgot someone that important just like that? Can people really forget?
Sorry, Adder, I don't have time to get into philosophical debates. Those two have just earned themselves a free ride to the dungeon.
The stroll took an unexpected direction towards the city's main tower, in the northeastern quarter of the inner walls. It was the second highest tower in the city, with ceilings tall enough that Illigrab could walk inside. Adder had to go fetch Geoff from there every so often, so he was relatively welcome as long as he had Illigrab by his side.
Take it to court next time. Street fights are strictly prohibited. Are we clear?
Both of the prisoners uttered a disheartened yes, sir, and Illigrab nodded to himself.
Hey, Illigrab, I was wondering, you could throw anyone in the dungeon, right?
Well, I wouldn't say anyone, but I do have a pretty good grasp on Heirloom's populace, if I may say so myself. Hey, I could even set you up in a pretty cell, if you ever want to leave Goff's place.
I'm all good. I was just wondering if you'd seen never mind.
A never mind? What's that, some kind of flower?
Prettiest in the kingdom.
Ina, get out of here. Oh, man. That didn't end there either. The strange days soon turned into strange weeks. Clink, clink, clink went the hammer in Ina's forge, but there was another incessant noise. It sounded like the bellows that lit up the furnace. Aww. Its source was, of course, Adder, looking out the window, sighing like he wanted to empty his lungs. Ah! That was a sigh. Please believe me, that was a sigh. With a semi-nocturnal roommate and what may count among the 10 worst beds in the world, dozing off, spacing out, or generally getting distracted in his job was nothing out of the ordinary for Ader. Sighing, however, that was definitely out of the norm, and he'd been doing an awful lot lately. Stranger yet, Adder hadn't noticed that Ina had been standing right behind him for quite a while now. She's getting tired of it.
What? Huh? Hey, boss. I was just thinking about my things. You know, rivets and stuff. No worries, ma'am. I got this. I'm all focused now.
Oh, man. Thunk, thunk, thunk went Adder's hammer. Yet Ina wouldn't leave his side.
Anything else?
Ina put a hand over Adder's, and what may have been the most confusing gesture of this side of Lake Sihal. Adder looked down at it rather blankly, only to find that he was holding the hammer by its head.
Wowee, that's dumb even for me. You seen my brain lately, boss? I don't know where I left it. Sorry, boss.
Clink, clink, clink went the hammers, and it wasn't reassuring at all. Because strange weeks had turned into strange moons.
Taters, huh? Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry today either.
In the great realm of Akazor, where the very essence of reality was distorted to make flowers carry messages over the whole continent, and a single king had ruled since the gods fought wars in the skies. Adder having lost his appetite for the better part of Dasun didn't sound plausible at all.
All right. It ain't like I'm not hungry, Kay. It's just that... Look, boss, I don't mean no offense, but you ever tried one of these? I've eaten knuckles with more flavor in them. Nah, what am I saying? I know you wouldn't touch these with a... All right.
Sorry.
Nah, what am I saying? I know you wouldn't touch these with a stick. Your paw's sitting on a pile of Barhan gold. Who the hey wants taters when you can have figs and dates for supper every night? Am I right?
The merchant was filthy, filthy rich, and he would have indulged in such delicacies if he hadn't been too tired of his worldly life to bother chewing and too cheap to buy actual food to fill the pantry. So Adder's meager allowance came from Ina's own, totally legit, unspecified source of income, which neither Illigrab nor Adder had probably ever thought about. Why this? Why now? When had Adder gotten so picky? He'd never had any problem eating the same stuff over and over before. He was thankful he got to eat it all.
I guess it's time I learned my place and stopped drooling over all the fancy stuff I won't have again.
Where did he even get to try it in the first place? He let it slip that he'd eaten Sep's meal, or whatever. Restless, concerned, gods forbid, worried. These were all adjectives that clearly did not apply to Ina. But, for some reason, she kept passing a tiny, ugly potato from hand to hand as she stared at the city from her home, thinking about the small fortune it had cost someone. Not her, but someone. You'd think that deer would have settled their capital in a beautiful prairie where they could graze free and indulge in hedonism. That the whole world looked something like a village Adder wouldn't shut up about. But nope. A massive lack of foresight, coupled with Ecane stubbornness and the insistence of their king, led Heirloom growing in the middle of a steppe, between the enormous lake Zihal and the Alar Sea. With barely any space for bush pens in the proximities, infertile fields, and a million souls to feed, food was neither cheap nor readily available in the capital, and hogged by those that needed it the least. Anyway, the point is that Adder was a poor, starving deer, and Ina wasn't willing to put up with this anymore. Find a cure. Some small maroon spots in the potato skin alerted Ina that the potato she'd chosen probably wasn't in the best condition. She was devising the punishment she'd bring upon the merchant that could have endangered Adder's life with diseased food. She had a small epiphany. Perhaps Adder wasn't being an imbecile. Perhaps he was just sick. Ina didn't have the foggiest about medicine, but she figured that it couldn't be too different from fixing any other thing in the world. She just had to figure out what piece was malfunctioning. And she knew where to look. Perfect. I've sent her off on a fool's errand. You'd love to see it. I think I've seen this shot in concept art. Yeah, I've seen this shot before. Quiet, furtive steps. The only sound disrupting the consuming silence that filled the Temple of Hirub once the night fell and honest folks left the streets. Any thief that was dumb or brave enough to target such an old place of worship would have been surprised to see that not a single fire burned in the whole temple after the sunset. Not in the courtyard. Not in the offertory. Not in the library where someone was meticulously looking through shelves filled with books and clay tablets that threatened to crumble into dust at any moment. Ina set her sights on an interestingly named volume. Okay. I can get this. Basakrahun Ianakek. Basakrahunia Nakek. Basakrahunia Nakekain. Akaina. Einapnetan. Einapnetkan. Einapnetan Kienet. Einapnetan Kiet. Basakra. Oh god. I'm losing oxygen to my brain. Basakrahunia Nakek. Basakrahunia Nakek. Basakrahunia Nakek Einapnet. Basakrahunia Naktet. Basakrahunia Nakek. Basakrahunia Nakek Einaptun. No. Basakrahunia Naket. Basakrahunia Nakek Einapnet. Basakrahunia Naket I'm. Basakrahunia Nakek I'm not 10. Einapnet. Ankienet. Basakura-kun yanakek ainapnet yanakun. No, fuck. Fuck, hold on. Alright, guys, we're close. Basakura-kun yanakek ainapnet. Yes. Basakura-kun yanakek ainapnet. Basakura-kun yanaknet. Sorry. Banakra-hun yanakek ainapnet ankianet. Put it all together, and what does that spell? Basakra-kun yanakek ainapnet ankianet. Easy, guys. 3 steps. Roughly translating to Surnar as Anatomy of Barhans and Ekanes. In Ina's humble opinion as an observer removed from the art of talking, society improved a little the day the Northerners introduced the concept of breathing between words. The book coughed a small puff of fine sand upon being opened, but it looked otherwise pretty well conserved. Ina began shuffling through the pages quickly, looking for the part that interested her. The revolting innards of the brutish deerfolk, a most thoughtful and impartial evaluative treaty, would be a rather forgiving translation for the title of the chapter she was about to read. Oh, I unlocked Oestrus. The reason for Adder's strange behavior had to be written somewhere around. She just had to narrow down the source of the ailment.
Who dares into my lair?
Ina slammed the book shut, startled. She growled softly to let him know it was just her as she left the book on a nearby table.
Aina, you stupid spendthrift! What are you doing to my precious books?
The merchant explored the room with his cane, trying to make his way towards Ina. He picked up the tome that Ina was reading, making sure that every page was where it was supposed to be.
Huh! A page is a bent. Are you just reading this? Wait, you? Reading? Are you sick, child?
Ina would have loved to tell her father that she had hobbies and interests that he knew nothing about her, and that she hated reading and dyeing her hair green wasn't just a phase. The merchant continued examining the book. He ran his bony fingers along the engraved inscription on the spine of the book.
What do you need an anatomy book for anyway?
The old man paused for a second, considering his own question.
I'm gonna unman that bespalling tallow catch!
The merchant stormed off as fast as his nearly fossilized legs led him, leaving Ina to her own devices. She opened the book once more, passing a few pages just for mere curiosity, until she stumbled upon the very last chapter. Bloodlust. A concise summary on the geological evidence for the existence of gruesome savage beasts, speculations and imaginations of their appearance. Okay. Ina just closed the book and dropped it onto the ground. So I guess that book wasn't very, how would you say, nice to deer. A marine breeze blew over the streets of Heirloom the next day, sweeping away some of the hot steppe dust that suffocated the city. Akazor was 2 moons well into Dawson already, and it was coming to an end little by little. It was lunchtime, and Ina couldn't stop thinking about the previous night. The book recommended great doses of fresh air, relaxation, and a vitamin-rich soup for all ailments. Ina didn't know what vitamins meant, but she understood the concept of soup. She also understood most of the other concepts she'd read about, and once they popped up in her mind, she no longer had the mental capacity to make a soup. Carrying a small mountain of uncooked, misshapen potatoes, dried seaweed, and several bulbous roots, Ina made her way through the corridors of her home in search of her apprentice. A cloud or two could be seen in the big blue sky, white and puffy, off to conduct whatever business a cloud could have so close to her home, the once great temple of Hirub, the abandoned residence of a god that left in a tantrum after the Barhan rebellion. Not the most elegant farewell, but her father said that God always said that gods need no manners, and that old geezer clearly knew all about that. The lack of manners, I mean. He knew a thing or two about gods as well, but he much preferred to spend his time cursing them for his longevity. Oh, there he went with his usual friends.
Burn the sippy! This time we'll get him for good!
Aina! Second-class daughter of a hero-praying beast! Quit whiffle-waffling and do something about this! I know you're somewhere around here, you busty lugs! Aina!
Oh no! He's casting some kind of spell! Hurry up!
What? Ina just stared idly at the mob carrying her father away, off to a pyre that would forever magically fail to end the poor man's life. A question resurfaced in Ina's mind. Hold on, I don't want to revisit that really quickly.
Aina! Second...
Burn the sippy!
Aina! second-class daughter of a hero-praying beast! Quit whiffle-waffling and don't...
Oh no!
Okay, so apparently he was just... he made a mob mad or something. Fair enough. It was Adder's, pondering aloud whether Ina's father was hated a little more or a little less for purchasing and desecrating a temple of a god that most people despised anyways. She took a moment to consider this as she walked into the sunlight. Sacrilege is kind of a global standard, I suppose. Cue Adder, moping all by himself in the courtyard. Ina tensed up her shoulders and stretched out the food plate, attempting to pass the dish as something casual that she didn't go out of her way and spend her personal earnings to buy. Once more, instead of happily proceeding to choke on his payment for helping out in the forge, Adder took a long, empty look at the food. He sighed and looked away.
Sorry, boss. I'm not hungry.
So he'd said time and time again during the last few moons, but Adder had always ended up giving up and eating. Less and less every time, however. Ina waited patiently to no avail. Once she got tired of that, she shook a carrot in front of his face, hoping to stir his curiosity with this new, shocking ingredient. No answer. So there she was, shaking her rattle in front of a giant, one-eyed baby that refused to eat. Seeing that diplomacy didn't work, she poked his snout with said carrot. She poked and poked until it ended up in his nose.
You happy now?
What a great read. Ina's total desperation was purposely ignored by Adder, so a poor carrot was snapped in two for his sins. Recollections of the anatomy book began appearing in her mind. She didn't want to believe it, but perhaps all those noises weren't sighs, but Adder's tremendously pathetic mating call. She stared at Adder from behind the mountain of food as he rubbed his snout. Yes, she'd read something about that. What a shameful display, showing off his nose to a pure maiden to entice her. But she had to stay strong. That wasn't the time to let her heart flunder under the very self-indulgent assumption that Adder was somehow interested in getting to know her better. Ina was no Hakim, but she knew that her profession well. She needed to confirm her suspicions based on the symptoms before giving a diagnosis. What? Well, what are these options? Pants. I want to know what pants does. Ina's wanton eyes followed the trail of dark curly hair that zigzagged from the gorgeous brunette's chest all the way to the end of his toned stomach. There was a problem, no doubt, a problem in his pants. Hey, that doesn't happen until chapter 10 of my fanfiction.
You get it!
Ina was actually just thinking that Adder's pants were several sizes too wide for him. He'd lost a ton of weight since they first met. Living with only one meal a day will do that to you, and he looks downright gaunt as of late. That's what you'll write anyway.
What? You can't tell me that you hate this character and then rewrite the story for them. That's called favoritism. I'm writing down all of this.
You're no fun.
You're one to talk.
Wait, I can keep selecting. Huge. The book stated quite specifically that one of the most obvious external signs of illness was a flush of red, spreading through the face and possibly chest. Ina put her face closer to Adder's, looking for that blush. Adder's face went red immediately. Ina nodded to herself. It had to be a bad case. He was even going a little cross-eyed. Alright. The book had talked at length about the feelings associated with such a state. Heart racing, palpitations, and extreme warmth would be most characteristic ones, and they should be obvious to the touch. Ina looked at her palms. Well, actually she didn't. They were covered in bandages. She looked thoughtfully in their general direction. She wouldn't bare her hands for him. Not now. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Her ears weren't covered, though. Perhaps she could listen to his heartbeat. She could just put her face to his chest and... Wait, she couldn't listen to his heartbeat with her face buried in his chest. Ina completed the examination and nodded, noses and ears twitching as she giggled to herself. Playing Hakim is great.
We're out of places to grope, you perv.
What? Oh my god! You were right. Ina's awful. He rubs hooves. I have to let the readers know about this. Every generation to come shall be made aware of the fact that Tess Ina was nothing but a little slobbering beast!
That's fair. Ina channeled her embarrassment and indignation in a way that was not deserved, but not uncalled for. Adder got a swift punch to his face, and as was the norm for her, Ina ran away before she got a chance to see his reaction. Oh no, I fucked up! I could have done, the one thing that wasn't obviously wrong. Ina marched towards one of her usual hideouts atop that rundown temple wall, away from Adder's sight. She didn't run that far. He wasn't going to pursue her this time. Alone with one of her potatoes and all of her weapons, Ina began rummaging through her pockets in search of a knife. There was never a lack of those on her person. She brought out one of her trusty daggers and focused all of her attention on cutting the potato into thinner and thinner slices. It wasn't wrong, there was just no way she was. She was older and wiser. Adder was just being an idiot by refusing her help. Of course.
Hiding from the mob, little Tess?
Oh my god. Jesus Christ, where did you come from? God's damn it, Tree Man. Replying to Illigrab wasn't precisely on Ina's list of priorities for the day. Illigrab didn't expect otherwise.
Don't worry, I took care of them. No need to thank me, of course. Wouldn't kill you, though. Anyway, all that's left is putting out the fire, so, I was hoping Adder could give me a hand there. Where is the lab?
There was another question that didn't deserve an answer. Ina devoted her whole being to gathering all the extra thin potato slices and then launched them into the air, watching them fly around like some tremendously wasteful confetti.
Did you two get in a fight?
Ina led Illigrab to the courtyard. There where a peevish Adder sat by the fountain. He was rubbing his face and he stared at all the food by his side.
He hasn't come back to his senses yet, huh? Hey, think it's your father's fault? I mean, I could leave him a little longer on the pyre to see if he learns his lesson.
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted fur!
Don't you dare, you son of a wilted fur! Beat face.
Beat face.
I'll make a wardrobe out of you!
Oh, bless your ears, Red.
Ina shook her head, frustrated. The merchant hadn't said anything meaner than usual. And even if he had, Adder and Ina formed an unbreakable team. Nothing could harm them when they were together. They looked in Adder's direction once more. Oh, he just...
Was he actually doing cartwheels?
I won't pretend I've ever understood how Adder's mind works.
You two worrywarts were made for each other.
Ina's face turned red immediately. The legendarily morose Smith would rather admit any criminal charges against her than let on that she was actually concerned about anyone's well-being. Illigrab smiled and stepped forward before she had a chance to protest, however.
Let me handle this. Ahem. Addison, son of Gerfaz of the Upperfield, you're under arrest!
Oh, Furry, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I knew that it was against the law, but I couldn't just go tell on her. Please don't kill me.
For worrying a precious little bean, like...
Precious little bean, ooh, ooh.
Ada, sweetie, give us a minute, will you? Adder! Adder! My favorite Chanthurian refugee! Why would the only law-abiding deer in Slander District ever beg for his life? Did Gyoff talk you into conning someone? Someone called Tailid, perhaps?
No, thank you. All the gold and Basaxeron ain't worth a word with that sicko. Don't tell him I said that.
Well, that rules the most serious possibility out, which leaves us with a scared buck and a secret. And you know that I'm only second to Aina when it comes to both. Start talking.
Why is it that he looks even more intimidating when he says that? Like, the lighting on that is
If
great.
I'm gonna die, at least let me die an honest book. I met this girl and she booped me and I got so nervous that I ran away, but then we met again and it turned out we kind of knew each other because I tried to save her once. Things got kind of heated up between us and,
He's bouncing. Increase speed!
what we did that night? Oh boy, that can't be legal.
Oh, say no more. So, you shed your antlers. That's no big deal. And most certainly not a crime. Though you know, fawns happen. You do know about that, right? Adder, I love you like a son, but please don't make me take on your father's actual educational duties.
I know where fawns come from. That ain't...
Good, good. Then what could... Oh, of course. I should have known from the very first moment.
Adder's eyes lit up slightly. Illigrab let a heavy hand fall on the buck's shoulder as he took a deep breath.
Adder, no matter how guilty you feel, cheating is not a crime.
Say what?
I want you to know that I don't approve of what you've done, but I'm sure Aina will understand if you talk to her.
I'd never cheat on Aina. I'd have to be courting her for that anyway.
You're not?
Course not. My boss is the strongest and the coolest and cute as a bug to boot. Ain't nobody good enough in this world to court Aina, much less me. I could never find me a doe like her.
But kid, she's not a...
If a tree falls in the temple and there are 3 people to hear it, including the tree itself, does it make a sound? The answer is yes. He says doe.
All right, kiddo. That's the end of the talk. Why don't you, go back to sulking in the corner or something?
Illigrab laughed awkwardly as Ina dragged him away.
You're lucky I can't have you arrested, you unruly little beast. Yeah, of course. Mock your biggest ally. Excuse me. That wasn't on purpose. I swear.
Illigrab is my
Your
favorite.
greatest ally! I was just trying to help you. Forget that stupid argument. I thought I told you to tell him the truth already. Don't play the mute card with me. There's a million ways you could tell him. That boy's blinder than Pertok, but he'll find out sooner or later that you're lying to him. You want to wait till Eka is here? How do you think he'll react then? Aina, we aren't like him. Like them. I know you care a lot about him, and so do I. I love the both of you. But keeping up the charade for so long is only gonna make the truth harder than it should be. Deer, have a life. And we're a part of it, of course, but there are just some things that we can never give them. Things they need in their short time on Dakna. No matter how much we love them. Adder is no exception to that rule. He's beginning to realize that you're not the son of his life, Aina. Take the whole night business out, and what do you have? He's just a boy with down-to-earth concerns. He wants a farm. He wants a family. He will move on one day and find those things. And we should be happy for him. Do you understand?
There were some concepts that Ina was acutely aware of, even if she herself didn't realize that. How painfully small her influence could be on anyone's life was one of them. A few moments went by in complete silence as she contemplated the faces that had left her behind already. She had always been all too eager to forget how rare company had been throughout her existence. Bearing the weight of such a thought, she finally nodded with her head low. Illigrab's mustache turned down as his eyebrows rose, a million worried creases forming where his forehead should be.
Great! Then do me a favor and take him somewhere nice tonight.
Huh?
You have to make sure to have fun together while you can. So go make up with him. Take him out tonight. Who knows? Maybe he'll loosen up and tell you what's going on after a few drinks. It's time to let him in or let him go. So you two'd better be smooshing faces together by the end of the night, okay? That's a royal order.
In an incredible display of dexterity, Illigrab managed to produce a handful, a giant tree deer's handful, of Doris from a bag on his belt, which he handed to a very flustered Ina as discreetly as he could. Satisfied with his act of generosity, he took a long glance around the forge. finally stopping to stare at the embers resting on the bottom of the furnace.
And you can think of that as a tip. You know, so you can get to work on my order a bit faster. Hmm?
Ina looked at Ilgrab straight in the eye. Not restless, not calm. Even more silently than usual, she stretched out the hand holding the coins towards him.
Fair enough. I should know better than to try to bribe a Tess. You guys are a prideful bunch. But hey, keep the money. I'm sure Adder could use a little, push in the right.
Are you going to help me down or what?
Red, I swear I'd let the mobs have their way with you if it wouldn't make your daughter sad.
I'd like to see you try!
Oh, I'm sure you would. He's right, though. I shouldn't leave him hanging like that. Good luck, Ina.
Daughter... Oh, that's a good point. We know that Ina is one of his daughters, I guess, but I guess he has others. Maybe, who was that girl that they mentioned? Eka? Eka. Free from the chains of unwanted social interaction, Ina silently pondered Ilgrab's words as she headed back towards Ina's side, or Adder's side. Good catch, though. I didn't even, I just read straight through that. The used-to-be sacred flat pools in the public courtyard now served as a magnificent dish and laundry washing station. Adder's, particularly, since he was in charge of these chores. At the end of the day, any of her oh-so-urgent tasks were just another excuse to keep Adder around. Oh shoot, I need to go. Bedtime and stuff? Alright, well thank you for stopping by, Comback, and sleep well, and get some rest. Again, thank you for dropping by. I'll be continuing this tomorrow, if you're available to stop by, and I'll let you know what happened in the meantime. Like I said, we're going to be finishing Chapter 2 and then going on to Chapter 3, so rest well, and I'll see you around. He purposefully looked the other way. Of course he didn't want to talk to her. The irony of getting blatantly ignored by the clingiest deer on Dakina wasn't lost on Ina. A painful punishment if there was one. An apology was to be something rarely expected from the smith. Not because she failed to see the fault in her actions, because she didn't know how to apologize. No, that was just an excuse. Ader always knew when Ina felt guilty about anything. Then again, why does she have to apologize when it was him who failed to appreciate her efforts? She would have continued patting her own back and telling herself how right she was, if she hadn't noticed that the food was nowhere to be seen. Oh!
Yeah?
Ina carefully removed from Adder's hands the brass dish that he'd been polishing over and over.
It's not clean yet. There's some red spot that just won't get.
An incredible feat, considering that he'd been washing the same dish since her conversation with Ilgrab started. The dish had been cleaned with such dedication that she could see her reflection in it. Ina stared at the dish. And then at Ader. Back at the dish. At her again. Once satisfied with her observations, she whacked at her snout with the flat side of the dish in the manner she considered softly.
What is it now?
Smirking in the most annoying fashion possible, she shoved the dish on Adder's face.
Yeah, there it is. Just let me clean that darn dish.
Ina turned the dish around once more just to make sure she was right. There was no spot to be seen. Seeing that her first idea didn't yield any results, Ina decided that some better strategic positioning was in order.
Hey, wait! Don't go walking into the pool! You're gonna make a...
Ignoring the way her boots were getting soaked and how questionable her repositioning was, Ina sat down in the gap left between Ader's legs and the pool. She held the dish out as far as she could and tapped on its surface, attempting to call Adder's attention to it once more. He had to regain a bit of composure first.
Can't you see the spot? It's there, right next to your face.
A brief lapse of clarity came about as Adder's sight traveled towards a red blur in the brass dish, right where his left eye should have been.
And I'm done. Big surprise.
They agreed on that. A tranquil silence followed Adder's epiphany. A moment of reflection. Ina looked up at Adder with her big lilac eyes, hoping to tug at his heartstrings in lieu of an apology.
Some people would call that kind of purposefully cute look manipulative.
Some people would get their asses kicked.
Well, darn, boss. I may not be all that used to the eye thing just yet, but I don't really need two eyes to see when you're trying to play me.
Ina patted Adder's enormous arms as patronizingly as she could, ruffling the fur that covered them. It seemed none of them would exactly apologize for what happened. So of course they went back to playing with the dish like the big children they were. Yeah. Blech.
Who the hell's that gnarled leafless palm tree? That ain't me. There just ain't no way that's my face. Where'd my cheeks go? No wonder I don't recognize myself. Hold up. How did she even manage to recognize me then? Was that magic too?
Ina had no idea who she was or what magic he was talking about, but there was only one gigantic one-eyed roe deer with shovels for hands in the whole city. Adder put the dish away, fixing his gaze farther in the fountain, where a statue stood, mutilated and bereft of the glory it had ages back.
Curses. Ain't no way I could forget someone like that twice.
Knowing fully well that he wasn't talking to her, Ina continued running her bandaged fingers along his fur absent-mindedly, somewhat concerned about his sudden interest for the son of the sun. She could only guess why he was talking to a statue. Then again, didn't that hold true for everything? Did she actually understand a single thing Adder said or did? Could she even? Adder had told her a million things since she met. She didn't care. They did not affect her in the slightest. And yet he kept pouring his heart out to her, and she kept ignoring him. Like some sort of tug-of-war for lonely idiots. Big Homestuck vibe, honestly. So why did the thought of not understanding him distress her so much now, when she hadn't made a single effort to do so in the time they'd known each other? In the time they had known each other. Ilgrab's words resonated within her, making her feel a guilt she usually quieted with violence.
You know, I've been thinking a whole darn lot about the past lately, boss.
Ina's torn-up ears perked up. Wow, her ears are really fucking torn up. I didn't notice that. Adder smiled ever so slightly, giving her a trademark, "Here's a story you don't want to miss" look.
Do you remember the day we met?
What a question.
Hey, don't you at me, Missy. Imagine you just walked into the city thinking this is finally your day. You make a friend, he's gonna get you a job, and then you turn around a corner and stumble upon a grandpa on fire!
Nothing strange as far as Ina was concerned.
Do me a favor and make like your idea of weird and mine sort of match for a minute, boss. As I was saying, my pa raised a good boy, and a good boy don't let grandpas fry on a pyre. So I rush into the temple, ready to end the one life I got to save his.
What Adder didn't know is that Ina had been looking down on the scene from her window, giving her a quite more accurate retelling of the events.
But no matter how hard I try, the fire's just too strong for me. There's nothing a poor buck like me can do. With his last breath, the old man calls for his daughter, and he hollers until... Whoa! The prettiest girl I'd seen in my life walks right out of the gate!
Ina made a conscious effort not to giggle. To be fair, half the female population that Adder met was the prettiest girl he'd seen in his life.
And as she makes her way through the crowd, she looks at me! At me! Of all the people!
Of course she was looking at him. He was screaming louder than the man on the pyre.
And she gets closer. And closer. And then... the little thing just signs us to get eaten by a beast and walks away like it's got nothing to do with her. Wonder who that gal was, huh?
He poked Ina's cheek and she slapped his hand away as solemnly as she could. He was one to talk about first impressions. Shaggy, chubby, badly patched up and wearing a ridiculous vest. That's how she remembered Adder that first appeared in their gate, screaming in fear as usual. Once upon a time, there had been muscle and even fat on Adder's arms. All that remained to attest to his gigantism were a pair of oversized hands and clothes that had been mended beyond recognition. Indeed, he was once a boy with a tender scar on his face, yelling from the rooftops that he fully intended to become a knight. But dreams aren't edible, are they?
I gotta say, this year's been kicking my ass real bad. But I'm still alive and in one piece. I mean, I guess I got good health at least. No thanks to your horn-shattering, teeth-breaking, nose-bending punches. But you're the one person I can always count on, boss. I trust you with my life.
That was just a very Adderish exaggeration, of course. They had only been friends since the last Bleak Night, at least the way she saw it. There's no way he trusted her that much already. Then again, Adder probably would have argued that they had been friends since he had arrived, with the first bloom of flower scents, and that he would have died for her since the moment he saw her.
And it ain't just you. I can't imagine leaving Mr. Bard's home. Or not going on walks with Eligrab. Even the patron. Gods, I never thought I'd find something like this when I left the fort. I was just dying to go back.
Adder shut up all of a sudden. Ina was surprised he'd managed to speak half a sentence about his draft. There went another issue he never talked about. Both Adder and Ina turned their eyes to the reflection once more. The image on the dish offered no good answer to the questions either of them had. Just talked about the outcome of their decisions. Ina shifted the dish a little until she was no longer in the picture. That's where she belonged.
Now, you really gotta quit sneaking around, boss.
Putting his hands just above hers, Adder turned the dish so that she would be back in the reflection. She turned her face up towards his, confused.
Eligrab's words got to you, right?
Still observing Adder's snout in such a weird angle, she nodded. He had been a lot more vigilant than what she had originally thought, but he had decided to remain silent about it all the same. From such a low angle, his still faunish and round face looked even mature. Now, that was a stretch, and she knew that mature was probably one of the last adjectives that would ever be associated with him. But, for just a moment, she felt like he wasn't just a dumb kid who would get lost if she let go of him anymore.
Please, oh please tell me you didn't believe him, ma'am. He got it all wrong. I ain't no cheater. I never once said I was courting you, I swear.
It was just a moment, as I said. Ina quietly considered the question. But not before headbutting his chest for that tell, of course. I want to know more, so I'm going to say pry. While it was true that Eligrab was prone to babbling and fond of hyperbole, there definitely was something going on. Anything Adder wasn't crying about was suspicious by default. With no further need to pretend she hadn't heard a word, she began going for the conversation she'd spied on. Adder said someone kissed him. That was Adder, always exaggerating stories. Or so Ina told herself, coming up with the top 10 reasons why Adder couldn't ever possibly get a kiss. After all, Ina didn't believe that Adder could appeal to a female. Ever. At all. Nope. No way. And most certainly not to her. But, with the sole purpose of ribbing Adder, of course, Ina began making smooching noises as she hugged herself.
It ain't like she was, and I was. Look, what kind of buck would I be if I went around sharing that kind of stories? She may have get without a word, but that don't mean I could go hollering her secrets. I won't tell them to no one, much less a lady and much less my boss. It's personal, all right?
Personal? That word caught Ina completely unprepared. She was surprised Adder even knew the meaning of the word. The yellow stag had always babbled any thought that had had the misfortune of wandering through his mind, unprompted and unquestioned. Boss had been nothing but an odd formality between them. With a single adjective, in just a moment, Ina felt with complete clarity the wheels of time spinning. Out to get both of them. Change was scary, and Adder an oddity in a world that shunned her. All she wanted was someone that wanted to have her by their side. How could that ever be a bad thing? She didn't need an answer. It was now time for Ina to go back to sulking and for Adder to feel bad thinking it was due to his outburst.
They got it all wrong. Eligrab, Mr. Bard, the patron. I know they want to help, but all them city folks think they know better than Shorthorns over yonder. He don't ever get to finish talking, because they already know what a dumb fawn's gonna say. You got any idea how gosh darn friggin' annoying that is?
Ina rolled her eyes back. Ask the mute girl if she knows anything about not getting to chip in.
I ain't no fawn. I've been a farmer, and a water seller, and a watchman, and a soldier. I had a life before I met him, and I have one now too, but I just don't want to tell them about it. They wouldn't understand.
Oh, but they would.
And what if I just don't want to talk? What if I'm tired of everyone thinking I'm a hick and that's it? It ain't the end of the world, right? Right?
Adder looked at Ina pleadingly with a big glassy eye on the verge of tears. The smith couldn't even bring herself to give him the sarcasm he deserved. Ina nodded patiently, giving him a lazy, derisive pat on his cheek. She found that almost relatable. With a loud sigh full of resignation, frustration, and just a hint of relief, Adder rested his chin on Ina's head, letting his surge of honesty suddenly vanish.
Woo! Feels good to get that off my chest. Once more, does and stags, the only one that gets it is Aina the Smith. I'm sorry for all the grief I've given you, boss. I should have talked to you sooner.
Indeed, he should have. She was gracious enough not to remark it. Ina let him know that she still expected an explanation with a single look. And Adder's cheeks jumped a little as he looked away, smiling as coyly as his giant teeth would let him. And here came the part where he poured his heart out to the beautiful maiden by his side, and their relationship was strengthened even further.
Boss, you know that I know there ain't nobody in the whole of Akathor that'll keep a secret safer than you. But that still don't mean you get to hear about it.
Huh?
Time to roll out the barrels.
Well, ma'am, I think I'm all talked out for today. I should get going now. Mr. Bard's playing tonight, and someone's got to make sure he don't drink our money. See you tomorrow.
Adder headed off to the arc that led to Slander District. A set of steps started walking behind him.
Boss? Ha! Gotcha. Did I forget something?
Ina pointed at Adder and then herself.
You want to come along? I don't know, boss. It's, a stag night. We're gonna drink ourselves silly, and then we're gonna talk about does. Woo! Yeah.
Yup, talking about does? Now there's the biggest piece of fiction ever written.
Yeah, that was a necessary interruption. All right. Needless to say, Ina remained very much unconvinced.
What about your paw? He's gonna be madder than a hornet when he hears you're out drinking with me again.
The merchant was essentially mad at every fraction of a second he spent alive, and that wasn't a deterrent under any circumstance.
Let me make this a bit easier for you. Do you remember the last time we went to a tavern together, boss? You know, when you threw Mr. Bard out a window, and then you just ran after him and left me alone to... Hold up. Don't tell me that was the day she...
Whatever story Adder was about to tell disappeared completely from his mind. He bit the claw on his thumb, babbling to himself with that strange accent of his. Her boots didn't even make a sound as she shyly walked towards Adder. She grabbed his hand with her comparatively tiny fingers and looked up, awaiting a response.
Sorry, boss, don't cry, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you wanted to come along so bad. You could come down with us any day. And if Mr. Bard got anything to say about that, I'll take care of him.
Ina's lip trembled as she struggled to keep a smirk away from her face.
Not so fast, ma'am. You gotta swear over by tie that your butt and the seat are gonna be one and the same. Because if I see you throw a single punch, or a kick, or God forbid a stab, I ain't ever taking you with me again. I don't want another buck slamming a chair against my noggin. Got it?
Suspicious glares and mutters accompanied Ina and Adder all the way through Slander District until they ended up in their usual tavern. Or rather, the closest thing to a tavern one could find in there. The lucky bastard, so called in honor of the owner's late husband, who was struck dead by a lightning bolt after walking out of a gambling house. Three were clearly mad at him, though not quite as much as his wife. She'd surely made peace with the memory of him after finding his secret earnings and opening the tavern. If that doesn't give you a clear idea of the type of gents that frequented the establishment, suffice it to say that they let Gyoff play in it. Adder peeked in, looking with apprehension at the few deer scattered across the tavern. Anyone capable of ignoring the aberrations Gyoff played probably deserved to be there. Quick look back at Ina revealed her eagerness to quiet Gyoff using her fists. She'd noticed Adder's expression and quickly put her hands behind her back.
Hey now! You promised you'd be quiet. You swore over by top. He's gonna smite you to death.
Ina took a hand to her forehead and pretended to swoon. She actually miscalculated and fell on her butt. Smitten indeed.
I ain't joking around, boss. This is the one place in the district that still lets Mr. Bard play. I can't get in trouble here. I can't do that to Gyoff again, okay? Do it for me?
And there went Ina's plan for the night. Everyone turned towards the duo as they walked into the bar. Faces went from awe to ire. The barkeep, upon noticing Adder, quickly rushed to his side.
There you are, Adder. Just the man I wanted to stab today. Go tell that asshat friend of yours to tune that stupid piece of...
Ina's eyes met the barkeep. She paled. Ina smiled. Though Adder would have you believe otherwise, Ina storming off was hardly an uncommon event. It was, in fact, how most of our arguments with her father ended up, since she could not quite defend her own causes. Some strange events tended to occur concurrently. One night, an enormous hole appeared in one of the city walls. One day, the sun rose to reveal that Baitat's statue was missing its 2-story-tall sword. Most recently, someone removed all the pavement from the northeastern quarter of the central plaza. An extremely sharp dagger was the only clue the thief left behind. But of course, Adder didn't believe that his beloved boss had anything to do with any form of nocturnal vandalism.
Wait. What? You...
Oh, right. Boss, this is the prettiest barkeep in town, Miss Barkeep. Miss Barkeep, this is the prettiest smith in town, my boss, Ana.
Ana?
Ana tilted her head slightly to let Adder pat her head affectionately. Still, in such a cute position, she turned her eyes towards the barkeep in a killing glare.
Ana! Of course. I didn't know it was like that. Give me just a... You bunch of twats better get your asses out of this place immediately! These two want some space!
There was no answer to the barkeep's order. Ina reached for the hammer on her back.
There's no need for that, ma'am. We'll just try to fit in a corner or something.
Adder took a deep breath as Ina placed the hammer back on her belt, sending one last look of disappointment his way. Giof's barely cohesive poetry became clearer as they reached the back of a tavern, though the bard seemed too occupied with his performance to notice them yet. They managed to find an empty space where they could barely fit together, though their designated room on the floor became considerably bigger after Ina curled her lips at the deer around them.
Well, that sure was a thing. She never called anyone a twat for me before. You know the barkeep, boss?
Nope, no way. She had to be confusing Ina for some other green-haired albino that wandered from tavern to tavern once a moon demanding a little tip in exchange for not raising the place to the ground. Easy mistake. Once seated, Ina called the barkeep with a deep, menacing growl. She rushed to their side immediately.
Yes, miss?
Oh, Ina's a bad person. Oh no. Ina pointed to a cup and raised 2 fingers. The barkeep clearly didn't need a translation, but Ina's request didn't seem to cheer Adder up as it should have.
Make that just one, ma'am. I ain't got enough money. And I don't feel like drinking anyway.
But Ina felt like making him drink, of course. She brought out a shiny Doru from Illigrab's gift, pointed it to herself and then to Adder.
Oh, that's mighty kind of you, boss. But really, I don't want... I said no thanks.
Ina tried to push 2 coins into the barkeep's hand, while Adder tried to pull her hand away quite fruitlessly.
Ana! What did I say earlier about trying to know what's best for me, huh? I don't always gotta get naked to have fun, alright?
What? Huh? Both Ina and the barkeep looked at each other, then they looked at Adder as he pursed his lips together.
Get drunk? I mean, I don't gotta get drunk. What do you know? I think I kinda do need a drink. Get me drunk, please. I don't want to think about being naked now.
Adder was already bringing himself enough shame, so Ina kindly overpaid the barkeep in a desperate action to make her go away. Once the barkeep had left, she took one of Adder's hands and pulled it away from his eyes, trying to take a good look at his face. She would have had better luck looking for faces in the mold covering the walls.
Doth mine ears deceive me, or is that the tinkling of coins I hear?
None other than Gyoff finally turned towards them with a very calculated nonchalantness, plucking the strings of his perpetually out-of-tune ode. Sorrow, absolutely #get naked, all day, every day. Ina pulled her ears down and sighed audibly.
Goodness gracious! If it isn't Ladder, accompanied by the petite patroness no less, of all the miserable taverns in this loathsome city.
They both knew that Gyoff had been expecting Adder and had clearly seen them walk in, but why say hi like a normal person?
Evening, Mr. Bard.
I know what time of the day it is, thank you very much. I'm painfully sober yet. Or at least sober enough to recognize a moon in the sky and a lad eaten up by his misgivings when I... Aina! What did you tell Adder to
My
make
bad.
him wail like that? Oh, woe is me! So young and I'm turning hard of hearing! Speak up, dearie!
Ina's teeth gritted against one another, loud enough for Adder to hear. They exchanged a very serious look. One that said, "Don't." A series of strangely precise grunts and gestures followed one another under the expectant attention of the bard. Afterward, they both looked at Adder until he finally relented.
She wants you to keel over and die.
Why? Is she too lazy to kill me herself?
Bold
It
words.
was a question, not an invitation. But of course, that kind of subtlety doesn't fare so well around the likes of you.
Ina was considering how to best break Yoff's snout in a single strike, but Adder fulminated the bard with a look before Ina had so much a chance to grunt.
Cut me with the sword if thou must, but wound me not with the knives in thine eyes. Not you, Cabbage Head. I know you'll do both gladly.
Hey, quit picking on her.
Picking on her? Goading her a little counts as a provocation now? 'Tis but a jest between old friends. Very old friends. Aina knows it, doesn't she? Doesn't she?
I said quit that, Bard.
Me? She's the one that casually throws people out of windows.
That's because y'all make her mad.
Guards? Guards? Yes, see, my friend broke a buck's spine, but that's okay because she was mad.
Adder was about to reply, but the barkeep finally arrived with 2 cups filled to the top, where she surely hadn't spit at all.
Ah, just the thing to keep me goading.
Gioff grabbed one of the drinks before Ina had a chance to grab hers. She rose up from her seat, livid.
Hold up, boss. Don't go breaking promises so soon. I'll pay you back for that one. Here, you can have mine instead.
Ina took a brief look at the edge of the cup. It was covered with foam, which meant that Adder had taken a sip. Which meant that his lips had been there, which meant...
No, she can't have that one either. Aina's not old enough to drink. At least formally, And she's never getting older.
Just as Gioff was about to drink from his cup, Ina snatched her drink back. She gulped the beer down.
I'd say I hope you choke on it, but you can't even do that.
Ina proceeded to spit the drink all over Gioff's face and then slammed the cup against the table, leaving a crater in the metal sheet. Good God, these guys are contentious. Gioff dragged his hand down his face, trying to get the beer off his fur. He was trembling slightly, but laughing all the same.
All this time thinking you were a golem, and it turns out you're just a misshapen walking fountain.
Will you two quit acting like fawns?
The whole tavern stared at Adder's outburst. Once shame caught up to him, the row sat down again, heaving a long sigh. Ina and the completely soaked Gioff looked at each other absolutely flabbergasted. They both understood.
Well, color me surprised. I must admit that being lectured in maturity by Mr. There's a beast in my pile of hay was the last thing I was expecting today. Indeed, this is no time to squabble. It's been forever and a half since we 3 last shared an evening together. And if it was about me, this would be the last. So I really need to know. What on the face of Dakna is wrong with you?
I'm fine.
You're as fine as muscular I am, my lad. Come on, you can surely tell your best friend about it.
Sorry, Bard, but this is one of them things I can't tell anyone, not even Aina.
Gioff's eyes and lips narrowed until they both formed a line. Though wounded, he attempted to smile once more.
Uh-huh. We'll go with fine, then. Look at her, I know you're positively fine, but you've been just a little quieter than usual. As in, not blowing my eardrums quiet. Why are you so fine?
I just got a lot on my mind right now.
Yes, I noticed you spend your nights moaning.
What do you want me to do? I can't sleep when I'm worried.
Worried? Oh boy, you're gonna go blind if you keep worrying so much.
Don't go saying that kind of stuff in front of Ada!
Why? Is she not the one for whomst thy heart weeps?
Say what?
I'm going to give you the chance of your life here. Do you want to sleep with Aina?
Adder got so flustered that he almost flipped the table. Ina suddenly lacked the dexterity to find any of her many weapons and the accuracy to wrap her hands around Geoff's neck.
Is that a yes?
They bouncing.
It's a gosh darn freaking gazelle, alright?
Adder immediately dunked his face in the drink. Geoff's jaw fell to the ground. Ina forgot how to breathe. The bard proceeded to spill the contents of a cup all over the plate, banging the table with a fist and laughing over the top of his lungs. Ina's cheeks swelled up as she tried her best not to cackle.
Wait! All that melodrama! Just for some barhod lass?
That ain't the...
This couldn't be sweeter, oh you're a horn-eater. This poor hobo was so mistaken, you see. Thought you'd cry for a golem, but you're just too wholesome.
Quit with the golem thing and listen just this once, alright? It ain't about me being a horn eater or not. I mean, it don't even matter. It's been a moon since she gave me the axe. But I needed to see her one last time, and something happened that night. Something I can't tell Aina or you or anyone. And I can't stop thinking about it. I can't stop thinking about her.
Ah, yes. I'm sure a lot of things happened that night. Or didn't, from the look on your face. You know, there's not a face unbeknownst to this bard. So tell me which Zell has been touching your neck.
Go tune your ood, Geoff.
Wow, touchy! Anyway, I'm glad to hear that you're a healthy deer with healthy obsessions that don't include lifelike dolls with a penchant for smithery. I'll leave you two friends to your business dinner.
With that, Geoff got up from his seat. Instead of going back to playing his horrible songs, however, he headed to the back door, muttering things under his breath all the while. Ina's eyes finally drifted back to Ader. He turned red like a tomato.
Geoff, am I right? That bard's 2 straws shy of a hay bale and only half as smart. Sorry, boss. I need a moment.
Let's stay with Ader. We know following Geoff is just going to get her in trouble. Of course, Ina couldn't care less about Geoff's problems or any request for privacy. She was only concerned about Adder's well-being, and by well-being, I mean apparently questionable love life. Adder looked her way again. Ina's lips trembled, but she managed to keep a straight face. She tapped the cup, trying to remind him that it was there, and she still very much wanted him to drink it.
Sorry, boss, but I really don't want it. Beer just don't taste the same anymore.
Ina's eyes were immediately drawn to the cup Adder pushed into her hands.
You ever tried wine, boss? Like, for real grape wine? It's so good. It's even better than the mead we got back in the prairies. Just a few nights sipping grape juice and I'm darn spoiled rotten.
Ina stared at the foam edge and the foam stared back. Would she really get an indirect... Aina looked up again, somewhat startled. Her gaze locked with Adder's. Adder gasped, bracing himself for something. The boy leaned in closer, still fixing his eyes on Ina's. She didn't understand what he was trying to do, but he was managing to look really dumb while at it.
Darn it! Darn it all to oblivion! I really thought I did the thing this time!
The thing? What, the eat horns?
Boss? Boss, what are you laughing about?
Ina shook her head vehemently.
Horn eater.
And then her face met the table.
I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! I knew it! You just wanted to get me all drunk to hear that! This is why I didn't tell you anything! I knew you'd just laugh at me!
What a bold assumption. Ina, making jokes at the expense of others' inclinations. Never. Okay, maybe she called Geoff a horn eater at any and every occasion, but that was a totally different matter. She'd never call Adder a horn eater. Probably. Ina considered how very much not at fault she was as she shifted awkwardly on her seat, making the bag of coins tinkle. Of course! Ina held a coin out for Adder to see. Her eyebrow twitched a little.
You can't buy my forgiveness!
She flicked her fingers, revealing 2 shiny doors.
Alright, maybe you can.
She opened her palm, revealing a few more coins, and then tapped on his forehead.
3, 4, 6 Dorus for my thoughts? I don't know. It's really too personal to...
The purse tinkled again when she eagerly slammed against the table, almost breaking both.
You gotta promise me that if I tell you, you won't laugh at me. For real. Look at me, ma'am. This is my serious face. You promise?
All that money and still making demands? Ina promised herself that she would at least make an attempt.
I'm a gaze reader.
A what?
I can read minds.
An attempt was made.
Darn, you got me! I really thought I could fool you this time around, but nope. You're just too smart for me, boss. Here, take your money back. My pa raised a liar, not a thief.
Adder took his cup to his mouth, drowning his laughter in the drink. Incapable of controlling her strength anymore, Ina patted Adder's back, made him drop the drink over himself.
Oh, not the cape! Darn it! I just washed it last moon!
Adder lifted the hem of the rag he could only refer to as a cape, trying to determine the extent of the damage, and revealing something that definitely wasn't beneath it before. A burn? Ina reached out, attempting to touch the strange mark on Adder's chest. The boy recoiled immediately.
Hey now! This ain't no place to get all touchy-feely, boss. We're in public.
Little Grab would have argued that getting all touchy-feely was just as bad in private, but Adder never quite minded Ina invading his personal space when no one was around to tell her father. It was, nevertheless, a very strange thing to say for a boy that kept stepping over the line and hugging his boss no matter the situation.
Oh, how am I ever gonna clean this?
Quite easily. All you have to do is rub the fabric with some distilled alcohol. Leaving it in salt water overnight could also do the trick. Believe me, I am an expert when it comes to getting liquor stains out of my clothes.
Burbis! I have no idea who this guy is.
Just gotta give it a good rinse in the beach. Got it. Thanks for the tip, sir. Do you need anything else?
Indeed, I do. I could not help but notice that fine example of Bahan craftsmanship accompanying you. I'm beyond impressed by its degree of autonomy. And just look at the expressiveness in its eyes. I could swear that I saw a tear in them.
Barhan, what now? I don't know any witches. What are you going on about? Do we even know each other?
We absolutely do not. You may call me Burbith if you must spend your breath discussing anything other than this beauty.
It's Ina's classic Y face.
Gods above! Is that alabaster?
Adder and Ina shared a confused look while Burbis kept rambling.
Is he hitting on you?
However, the almost total absence of a snout and that triangular nose shape do not seem to align with the heavily embellished idea of the Ekain held throughout the rise of the Saksharat. A fawn, perhaps? No, of course not. Eyes so detailed, roundish shapes and a small mouth. Oh, look at that blush covering the nasal area and the cheeks. The very expression of femininity. Oh, undoubtedly unique.
Darn right he's hitting on you.
Of course, the Safi may have had a twisted sense of humor, shaping their servants like us, but they had their own moral standards. My point is, I never expected to see a golem with female features. Could I somehow convince you to part with it? Oh, my tat! It even talks! How did you make it do that?
She, sir. Aina's a she.
Yes, I said as much. Wait, what are those spikes between her teeth?
Burbis pulled Ina's jaw open with his left hand, trying to get a closer look at her fangs. Whoa! Not... Okay, I'm not sure what that was.
Yes, I said as much. Wait, what are those spikes between her teeth? Some sort of defense mechanism?
And Burbus pulled Ina's jaw open with his left hand, trying to get a closer look at her fangs. Luckily for all of the involved, Adder pulled Burbus's hand away from Ina's mouth right as her jaw snapped close.
Ooh! An automated shutdown function with a timer for protection in the inner workings of the artifact. Oh, how fascinating!
Have you lost your marbles? Don't go sticking your hand into people's mouths, you creep!
Why, I would never! You are talking about the golem, are you not?
Aina is not a golem!
Indeed, this is not a golem. This may very well be the golem. And I am very much willing to pay accordingly, I assure you. But to elevate it to the status of person.
Holy horns, is my accent too thick for them northern ears? Aina is a doe! A doe!
Are you certain about that? I do believe I look more like a doe than she does. If you would be so kind as to ignore the pun.
So you're one of those does that saw off their horns?
You could have been a fair deal subtler about asking that question. Yes, I file my claws for better accuracy, and yes, I lost my horns. But I am a man. You are no less a deer for having lost an eye, are you, sir?
I get the feeling you're mixing wheat with chaff here. But I ain't gonna judge nobody for getting touchy about their horns. Sorry, Mr. Burbith.
Oh, worry not, friend. Truly, it is not the individual to be blamed, but a society that places unnecessary emphasis on weaponry and traditions from an age of intellectual darkness.
I'm just surprised this guy isn't wearing a fedora.
Here. I get so much grief for having small horns. But I says to anyone that looks at them wrong, you got a problem with them horns? 'Cause I should be the only one worrying about my horns.
Indeed! Isn't the practice of turning our antlers to bone as a rite of passage simply barbaric? Without it, we would be free of accidents such as the one that beset me, and your need to overcompensate for your size complex.
Darn right! Wait, my what?
Both Adder and Burbus turned to look at Ina. They'd clearly forgotten all about her.
Wow. Look at that face! Oh, I could almost swear it looks offended.
All right, let's go over this one more time. She, not it. I ain't saying that Aina looks like a doe, no siree. She is a doe, Mr. Bearbeth. An albino doe. With a father, not a builder.
Ina's gaze shifted the other way upon hearing the word doe used to refer to her. She nodded anyway, not to leave Adder alone.
Well, it certainly isn't uncommon for an engineer to consider his magnum opus a child. It is, however, extremely unnerving, much like your complete ignorance towards the unique characteristics of your acquisition. The albino-like features we are accustomed to stem from the decay of their original paint. The root of her fur and beet red underpaint on this Aina's nose indicate that she was most likely done originally. I see the green dye is recent, though. Copper dye, perhaps? A, bold choice. Certainly not one I would have made myself. With all due respect, sir, do you understand the kind of chemicals you're exposing your golem to?
Adder stood still. So very still it would seem he had turned to stone. Then the stone began moving. He got up very slowly, putting both hands on the table, until he was fully standing like the towering mass he was.
You could call her my boss. You could call her my friend. You could call her a zillion bad names, and she'd be all of them and more. But by God help you if you call her my golem again.
Adder's scream almost sent Burbus's glasses flying. Panting and clenching teeth was not an expression befitting a boy so sweet. Ina put a hand on Adder's arm. The boy stared at it for a moment before carefully shrinking back to his place on his seat.
Ahem. If your eyesight is as bad as I suspect it is, perhaps you should consider acquiring a monocle, friend. or a relaxing cup of hemlock tea, both of which would do you much good. I am not sure as to how you stumbled upon her, but I am what you might consider an expert on the subject of Basaktarat as a whole, and I can tell you, this is a golem.
She's not!
Is too!
Is not!
Fine. I had been told that Rose seemed hard of hearing out of sheer stubbornness, but let no dear say I did not attempt to reason with you first. Prepare to be convinced, sir.
Burbus's cape flew open. He drew a dagger with his left hand and pointed it at Ader. Seeing this, the barkeep rushed over to their side.
Stop that, you halfwit! They're gonna destroy the tavern!
Who? That fool?
Before even an inch of the tiny blade had been revealed, Ader started running. And although Burbus clearly didn't have any intent to pursue him, Ader kept running all the same.
No, not the sand fur! The beast!
Oh, not this again! Please! This is a golem! Honestly, are all you villains nearsighted?
Ina glared at Burbus with all her strength, but she'd promised not to cause a ruckus. All she could do was stand up and watch our brave buck immediately head in a panic to the other end of the room. A knight that ran in the opposite direction whenever he saw a pointy thing. Some knight that would be. Then again, Ader hadn't said anything about that for months. The only one to ever mention it anymore was Gyoff. Of course, Ader had stopped talking about becoming a knight. He knew how ridiculous that sounded, and he'd probably realized it at some point what everyone knew. There was no hope for him. Once more, Ina stayed behind. She had clung for dear life to the idea of a boy that had outgrown her, ridiculous as it sounded in that precise moment. Ina sighed to herself, finding the whole situation rather underwhelming. She didn't even react to Burbus's approach. The so-called golem expert cut a small gap on Ina's trouser leg.
Now, face the irrefutable proof. Look at this. Wait, where are its joints? Maybe the other leg. No? Over there? How about Oh, that is very anatomically correct.
Well, Ader coming flying in from downtown. Perhaps there was still hope for Ader.
I really don't know what to say. Part of me wants to yell something like, I expected better from you, son, but I'm all about standing up for the little guy. And you're all tiny to me, after all. But against all evidence pointing to the contrary, Aina is very much not the little guy in any situation. Ever. And even if she was, you really should be a little wiser about who you pick fights with.
How was I supposed to know that that asshole son of a beast was Lord or whatever?
Hey, we don't use that language here.
That's how we call them pervs that don't respect a lady back in my town.
Making mothers the subject matter is not respecting ladies.
The patron insults Miles all the time, and I ain't never seen you complain.
And since when's that senile desert shrub a role model? What in the name of the Huts are you laughing about now?
Quit hollering, she don't know what's going on. Aina, I'm here. Just let me go with her.
Oh no, you're not going anywhere. I keep my guards well behaved, and I expect no less from the citizens, Ader. Mindless violence is not the solution to your problems.
But I thought you knew this already. Sorry, I accidentally hit the spacebar a little fast. Ader let his head rest against the bars that covered a small window in the door, making sure to give Illigrab his meanest look.
Look, I'm sure this is all just some big misunderstanding. I know Burbith. His train of thought is a bit weird at times, sure, but he's not a bad kid. There has to be an explanation for this.
He ain't got nothing to...
Kid, I can barely understand a word you're saying. You're gonna stay here thinking of what you've done until Burbith wakes up. If he wakes up. Come on, Aina. It's time for you to go home.
Aina gave Illigrab a very meaningful look.
Fine. You can wait for him in the entrance. But I swear by Aiamai that I'll rake you across the coals if I find a single brick out of place at Attersall when I'm back. Are we clear?
Aina nodded eagerly. Ildegrab gave her a dubious look, but he seemed to be in too much of a hurry to make sure that he'd stay put. He'd stay put. Oof, I don't know. Oof. Aina cast a look in Ader's direction. The boy nodded. She'd better behave. Well, that probably wasn't as exciting as I could have made it, but well. She took a seat on a sturdy-looking bench and fixed her gaze on the tip of her boots. She wanted to try her best not to cause a ruckus.
So you're not just going to keep me waiting. You're going to keep me waiting in a cell.
Oh, okay, apparently they're here too.
But babe, you know that I wouldn't leave you if I didn't have to. It's an emergency.
But the ruckus came her way all the same.
Why can't you just let me go home and tell Miss Rochelle that you can't make it today? I'm sure that I can get you a refund. Again.
Because I still want to do this, damn it! Just wait here, act like you've been caught, I'll finish in a minute!
I'm sure you will.
What was that?
You have yet to prove me wrong, Sir Askadath.
Wait, did she just say Askadath?
Yeah, she did. Don't say another word until we're done here.
Just you wait. I'm gonna bring the best wine in the whole of Akathor, and we'll go back to your room, and it's gonna be a wonderful goddamn night, you hear me? I'm gonna wipe that smirk off your pretty face.
The door was slammed shut, though the gazelle remained impassible.
Bring more wine for Jessie. Oh, Elbar, you're too easy.
In any other situation, Ina surely would have made some snide remark to herself about who the easy one was. But, for the time being, she had other things on her mind entirely. Jasif? Really? What was she queen of? The oversized butts?
Where are you looking, Snowflake?
Being so good at being sneaky, Ina was definitely lacking the art of subtly appreciating others' figures. The gazelle looked at Ina with a condescending smile.
And who might you be? The backup plan? And here I thought Sir Askadath only loved me for my horns. What? I'm sorry. I don't speak beast. I don't speak fawn, either.
Ina folded her arms over her face, angrily looking away for lack of retort that didn't involve using her fists. Call it intuition. Call it experience. Call it genre savviness. But oh, Ina would have bet all of her father's possessions that that snippy girl in front of her was the one for whom Adder sighed. Jasif, she called herself, tiptoeing around Ina in search of a spot to rest her legs. She stopped halfway, suddenly pulling closer to Ina.
That's a curious pattern you have there. Where did you get it?
Ina wasn't feeling particularly disposed to reply.
Say, you wouldn't happen to be friends with... what's his name? Something about a high field. Oh, Adder, perhaps?
Ina's ears perked up as she turned to look at her cellmate. The gazelle smirked, suddenly irradiating an aura of haughtiness.
A green-haired albino... No, of course. He told me quite a bit about you. His beloved boss, Iona.
Jasif's line of sight led Ina to her favorite hammer, which she had so lovingly signed, back when the Cernar I and O hadn't yet been given different phonograms. Oh. Another reminder of the passage of time, for no barhand worth their sand would have stooped so low as to become familiar with such a simple alphabet back in the day.
No, that doesn't sound right. Aina? Wait, Tasena?
The gazelle stared at her wide-eyed, incapable of stopping 1,000 conflicting thoughts from revealing a little spark behind her cynical eyes. An excited young girl emerged from her broken facade.
The daughter of the merchant, yes! My brother had a huge crush on you. He begged and begged Mom to bring you home, and she even offered your father a hefty sum to buy you. But that was when she thought you were a golem, of course. Do you remember her? Thar, wife of Igai? Or me? Any of that at all? Have you forgotten me too?
Ina hesitated. She had a feeling. A hunch, rather, that she should have cared. This was important. Something told her that these were names she should have known. She would have known. Had she been the Ina this gazelle clearly knew. But she wasn't. With a decisive negation, Ina dispelled any distant childish hopes Jessif could have held. Had she strained her ears, she may have heard the sound of a heart sinking a little deeper, breaking a little further. But little did that matter to either of them. A heavy sigh signaled that the moment of honesty was over. Jessif let her face rest on one hand as her eyes turned to condemn Ina once more.
Fancy that. I was just a child the last time I saw you, but I didn't forget you after all. Either I have a very good memory, or oblivion isn't as eternal as they say, huh? Don't make that face, Pipsqueak. Only an idiot would think that you're a golem for long. You don't need two eyes to see that there's a breath of a soul inside you.
It was now the gazelle's turn to stare at Ina until she felt uncomfortable.
I see anger when I look at you. A selfish anger. Pride that only grows by the day. I see a need to have it all. A need to leave a mark in the people around you. Framed by the vague hope that they won't remember your mistakes anyway. But I can't see you at all. Are you a mirror, perhaps? Or am I looking too much into this like a certain someone I know?
Damn. Ina didn't understand what this Jessif was laughing about, but she immediately assumed that the gazelle was mocking her somehow.
So how does oblivion work? How far back can you remember? Can you remember your life at all? Will I forget that you exist again if I don't see you tomorrow? Come on, humor me a little. It's my first time talking directly to a ghost.
What? As far as either could tell, anyway. Ina's lack of response filled the room with a deep, uncomfortable silence, one filled with secrets and regrets, though perhaps not for her. There's been a lot of stuff about memory loss and, like, forgetting things, and God, I wish I knew what any of it was about. After all, Ina had already been spared from any and all guilt she could have felt over a forgotten story. She never even had the choice to remember it to begin with. No, scratch that. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Actually, Mom told me that people get cursed for doing something so unforgivable that the gods can't look the other way. But what would a kid like you do? Leave food on the plate? Forget to brush your teeth before bed?
Oh shit, fuck. Guys, holy shit, I'm sorry, I'm going to... Oh god, the gods are about to get me. Let's insult her butt.
I bet you didn't leave food on your plate. Fat ass.
Excuse me?
Whoa! Okay, the first words Ina said all game.
Adder. Oh, hi, girls. Adder.
Wait, he's here? How did he even... Ugh, never mind. Where's that idiot Elbar when I need him?
Jessif paced back and forth, muttering things under her breath as she looked at the door. But the smith didn't hear any of that. Her mind had stopped functioning altogether. Ina hadn't even opened her mouth. Could it be that she'd really...
You, Cabbage Head. Make sure Adder doesn't do anything rash.
Her imperative voice echoed in Ina's mind, clouding every other thought. She suddenly felt obliged to comply. Okay.
Adder. Please tell me
Just
you're
gals
still there.
being pals. I don't know that passed the Bechdel test, though. Illigrab nearly slammed Adder's cell door open. He finally stopped saying Adder upon seeing the boy calmly sitting on the bench.
Hey there, lad. I have some good news and some bad news. Which do you want to hear first?
The bad?
The good news is that Burbeth is alive and well. He'll wake up soon. Bad news is, you and I are going to be taking a stroll to the marketplace.
How's that bad?
Are you familiar with the words attempted magnicide?
Oops.
Don't worry, I'll explain on the way. Up we go!
Well, it was nice knowing Adder.
Hold up! What do you mean by public execution?
Well, it sucks for them. He meant, of course. What was that?
Nothing! Tell me what happened next.
Right. Well, Adder and Illigrab. Lynn?
All that talk about food made me hungry.
Great sign that you should return to your parents for the day, Lynn.
No! We can't stop here. I don't want to go until you finish the story. What if your old bud crumbles to dust tomorrow and I haven't gotten to hear the end of it?
Adder turns into a knight, someone messes up his name at some point, and eventually you're born. The end.
Don't go! Please! I'm going to write even faster. Stay a little longer.
Fine, but I'm not letting you starve. By the moon and all its children. Where am I supposed to find milk now?
Milk? What?
Isn't that what fawns eat?
What? I'm not a fawn!
Sure you are. What are you, 2? 3?
I'm 14!
Man, things really do look different after you graduate college. See? A kid, and I'm not even sure you're old enough to hear what happens next.
How dare you! My age doesn't matter here. I'm a gaze reader. You wouldn't believe the things I've seen inside people's minds.
That's fair. I can understand that.
See, there was this one goat with a broken horn.
No, I don't want to hear it.
And then she asked me to foresee if the other girl had managed to pull it out of...
I said I believe you! Gods, this is why I hate Myrtles! Zico! Yes, the narrator and Lynn. Welcome, welcome. One day you're all cute and tiny and full of hope and pulling on my ears, and the next you're suddenly 2 heads taller than me and thrice wider and all you only know how to talk about... What's that look for?
What are you?
Yeah, no, lots of mystery happening. I am very done with this conversation. Chapter 3. Locked in Freedom, or How to Keep Your Head Up When You're About to Lose It. Bells tolled over the city, announcing the end of curfew. The start of a new day for the city at large, but the last for a poor, misplaced buck. And that's where we're going to end the stream today, everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. This has been super duper fun. Menu. Perfect. This was great, actually. I really love the charm of this game. And obviously the art. Hey there, Surf. Welcome. We've gotten through the first 2 chapters today, and if you guys want me to briefly recap it for you, Adder, farm boy, wanted to be a knight, immediately went to the city, immediately got really poor, and really starving, and now kind of has dropped that. We've got Ina, the blacksmith, who is maybe a golem, but she might be a ghost. Probably a ghost. And then there's Sep, who can do magic shit. And no one knows anything is the thing. Everyone's like, no one knows anything. That's the only thing I understand so far. The narrator and Lynn are recounting the tale of Adder's life, and there's lots of really cool interpersonal interactions. But a lot of the stuff, which is really interesting, is that it's like so much of it is just context that we don't have as people that don't know anything about the world. So it's slowly, like very slowly getting revealed to us bit by bit. I've also learned that I'm very bad at video games. All of the scene choices that I made seem like the wrong ones. So even though there's usually only ever like 2 options. That's going to be it for today. Now, Ader's dead. So we're going to see how we get through chapter 3 when he falls off. What do you call it? Like a thing that you hang from? A galley? Yeah, well, Ader's been hung by the neck. I'm sure he's alive somehow, but hell if we know how. Tomorrow we are going to be doing this again, and we are going to be finishing Chapter 3, which is currently what this game has, or what the Hayseed Knight has published content up to. And that'll be a 5 or 6 hour, well, I think it'll be about a 5-hour stream tomorrow. But I just wanted to get through the first 2. I'm going to end the stream, and we're going to be able to see, you guys are going to be able to watch the VOD. Apologies. I mean, I could go over the whole game again, but unfortunately it's a visual novel, so it's not like I can just like play a match and then again and again and again. Yeah, sorry, a little bit of unfortunate timing. But Maxie Molina, who made the game, stopped by and sent some kind words, and one of the pictures that are up here. Actually, let me just see if I can pull that up. Yeah, this one that just popped up on screen right now. Maxie did this for me so that I could show it off while playing their game. Anyways, yes, we are going to be doing Chapter 3 tomorrow, and please, if you just got here, I encourage you to watch the VOD on my channel after I'm done with this, because holy crap, this game is full of heart. It is full of really fun character interactions. Everyone's an asshole. Everyone's just got a heart of gold. I love all of these people so much. So hopefully you guys can enjoy that. But I am going to be ending it for right now. Unfortunately, sorry that it wasn't any longer. But we still have the opportunity to go raid someone and have a wonderful rest of the night. And it seems that X is no longer streaming, so I'm gonna throw us on over to Chew and say, well, did I get that right? One sec. Well, for some reason the raid thingy isn't popping up, but if that doesn't work, then just know that I'll be going over there. Thank you guys for popping in again. Sorry if you just popped in and I wasn't able to do anything, but the VOD will be up, and then we'll be finishing the game tomorrow. I guess compared to the other games I play, it's relatively short. Again, it's a visual novel, only about 10 hours long in terms of playing the content that has come out so far. But I'm really enjoying it, and I hope to see you guys there tomorrow. Why is the raid thing not working, actually? Oh, I already have a raid in progress. Well, I can't see it, so I'm just gonna hope that you guys tell me when and if that happens. It's going? Oh, okay. I don't know. I can't see it for some reason. So, I guess we'll just wait for that to expire. Also, we did hit the community food potluck challenge. Wait, never mind. We're 5,000 bits away. That's weird. I'm pretty sure Soro donated like 20,000 to it. Yeah, wait. This is so weird. I need to figure out what's up with that, because I'm pretty sure Soros donated like 150,000. Well, okay, before the timer ends, I have no idea when it's going to go, but thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Hope you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Again, it'll be tomorrow, about 5 hours. We'll be doing Chapter 3. We'll be seeing whether or not Ader survives, checking out some of the menu stuff, if that's applicable. So, there we go.